morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am Matthew Kadish, your belabored host for this fantastic discussion panel. Let me introduce our panel of nerds. Matt Bader, 74. How you doing?
This fantastic discussion panel.
Yes. Yeah. I use fantastic a few too many times.
Yeah, you're very good with your words. Hi guys, what's going on?
Hey guys,
we're here. We're here.
Hi,
man.
Yes.
Good chat. Good big group of chats today.
Speaking of being here. He's queer. He's our shield against all things woke. Brian from the Popcast. How you doing, buddy?
We need more energy in this group today. Matt's like, hey everybody. Like, I guess we're here. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Salty Saturday Show.
Yes,
Let's
girl.
get wild
yes,
and
queen.
Crazy with Richard and Odin.
Yes, queen.
Yes, queen.
And he's the king of pineapple himself has joined us. OMB Reviews is here. How you doing, Odin?
I was saying all those nice things about you before the stream, too, and now I have to take them all back. I'm doing okay, though, man. My seniors graduated this morning, so I'm happy to be on talking about nerd stuff.
Dude, how did you survive? You ate the pineapple pizza, you hated it, and then people gave you crap for hating the pineapple pizza.
I guess I just wasn't entertaining enough for some people.
You can't win. You can't win.
It's a lose-lose no matter which way I go.
So I want to. What exactly was the controversy? You only ate one slice. It was supposed to be a whole pizza or something, right?
So basically, it wasn't ever like an official like bet. Like we didn't like write terms or sign it with our blood or anything like that. But it was a general agreement. A gentleman's bet, right? That if the Mario film hit $1 billion, I would eat pineapple on pizza.
Right.
And that was how it was stated, pineapple on pizza. And then Jeremy also, if it didn't make it, would have to eat pineapple on pizza. It did cross it, and I admitted my wrongness. And I still am very upset by the fact that I could not read those tea leaves because, in retrospect, I was an idiot for not seeing them.
You did this to yourself.
I did it to myself. I really honestly did. And so then last week, I got my pineapple pizza, my piece of pineapple pizza, and then I thought it'd be funny to do a beer reference, a beer fest reference. And so in order to do that, I folded it up and said that if you've ever seen the movie Beer Fest, there's that time when a character is trying to like show up the other guy by saying, "Look how good I can drink," and like holding him by his throat. So he says "L'chaim" because he's a Jewish character. So I was just like, "Hey, L'chaim," and then I just shoved it in my mouth. But apparently people thought it was too quick. They didn't like that it was folded. There's a lot of different things, and some people then started to question whether or not I was truly a man of my word. And so that started getting, so it's like, wait a minute, I'm fine people making fun and joking, but like, that's the kind of thing I don't like that. And so I was responding to people who were saying those specific things, and people didn't like that either. So, it's a lose.
You can prove them wrong right now, Odin. Just grab some pizza.
Yeah, just grab some pizza. And, as a pineapple guy, I just want to say welcome to the club. I know you hate it, but you did it.
I had it that one time.
Yeah, still don't like it.
Despite your terrible taste in pizza, you're always welcome here on the Salty Saturday TV show. And we appreciate you being here. And we got a special guest with us today, best-selling science fiction author Richard Fox. He's returning to the show. He's a good friend of the show. But he's also got The Exiled Fleet coming out. And just wanted to point out that Exiled Fleet series is being developed for actual TV show. So he's Mr. Bigwig Fox down here. And he's also got an audiobook out called Hell's Horizon that is narrated by Giancarlo Esposito and Eric Dane from The Last Ship. So we got a guy slumming it with us today, Mr. Best-selling science fiction author. How you doing, Richard Fox?
I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to be here, Matt. Thanks for having me. And I tell you, one of the best things about having Giancarlo Esposito on the Hell's Horizon audiobook was he told one of the better, dirtier jokes I've ever written in my books. So I got to have him perform that. And it was not quite the flex I ever thought I would have in my writer career. But it's like, if I ever around other writers, like, yeah, but has Giancarlo Esposito told a dildo joke that you wrote? And so I've got that going for me.
Well, we love Giancarlo.
Pleasure to meet everybody. Thanks for having me.
Love Giancarlo Esposito, especially when he tells dildo jokes. That's always good. So for those of you out there wondering, we have Razorfist on our thumbnail. We have him in our title. I booked him months ago. I followed up with him week after week to make sure that he was coming today. But Mr. Fist he marches to the beat of his own drummer. He will show up when he feels like it, I'm sure. And hopefully he feels like it sometime before we end the stream today. But we are looking forward to having Razorfist on the show when and if he shows up. But, I'm keeping an eye on Twitter because that's mainly how I communicate with him. And hopefully he will be here soon. But until that time, I want to shout out everyone who showed up in the chat. Anthony Mark at the beach. We still got to order you your comic book that you won, signed by Ethan Van Sciver. So be sure to keep an eye out on that. I am going to be getting that to you, Anthony, as soon as I can. Penny, Danny's mom, we got your card. Thank you so much for mailing that to us. We really appreciate it. We got Goran Falf, Quantum Cat 76, the AstroNerdBoy, one of our Salty Saturday superstars. We got WG, major friend of the show. Thank you for being here. We got Radical Greek, Gavin Blackburn, our super sticker extraordinaire, Spartan Bot 1001, Harry Young. We've got, let's see here, who else? Rebel Concho Dragon, E. Clay Tomlinson. We've got, who else do we got here? So many people.
Lots of people.
Wow. Anima Confusa surfacing after a long absence. Good to have you back. The Joker's voice is here. We've got, who else?
Some guy named OMB Reviews. I don't know.
Yeah, picking
Bob,
fights with people in the chat. It's just what I do.
Yeah. Bob Bug with One Eye Asking is King is here. We've got, who else? Darth Maul, Harry Young, Deadfly, Nut Bunny, Samurai Knight, Ann Mueller. Let's see here, who else? Got so many people.
I think it's Arn.
You don't have to read them all.
Yeah.
Arn Mueller.
Well, we want to thank everyone for being here. We really appreciate it. You guys are why we do this, and we love you all. So real quick, I just want to give a shout out to our Salty Saturday superstars, Scotty Dub, Bob Dorsey, and the AstroNerdBoy. Scotty Dub donated close to $500 to reach the top spot as one of our top donators. We've got our loyalist, Joker Voice, and Mexican Iron Man, our most consistent donators, and our super thank superstars, Backyard TARDIS and JT Gunn. We appreciate you guys. We've also got the $100 club, which mirrors the Superstar Club. But if you guys want to get your name on here, just donate $100. You'll be in the club.
That's it.
And yeah, that's all it takes. But our top contributor, we want to give a special shout out, Scotty Dub. We really appreciate your support, especially this past week, guys. I don't know if those of you out there missed this or not, but we had a major break-in here at the Salty Nerd Studios in Las Vegas. They stole about $9,000 worth of equipment, and the Salty crew was not happy. We were kind of down in the dumps, actually. But thanks to the YouTube community, you all kind of came together and helped us get a GoFundMe going. And we not only raised enough money to replace all the equipment that was stolen, but we also were able to get brand new security measures installed in the studio to make sure that this didn't happen again. But man, it was a rough week, Odin. I'm not going to lie.
It has been for all of us. I think it's been a rough week.
Well, I would have rather been ridiculed
so for you, though, man,
for not liking pineapple than having $9,000 worth of equipment stolen. That's just
yeah, man.
I don't call it.
Just,
it's not
I'm
the
just
same
so
thing, Odin. It's not.
What was that?
Not the same thing.
I'm sorry that I'm trying to equate, the pain of my struggles with eating the pineapple. But no, seriously, like it's always one of those things too, where I think you can always find good even in the worst of times and even in the most evil things. And I think just the community coming together and helping y'all very, very quickly, I think, be able to get to those funds and then finding out more and more as, we just realized that this also got impacted and people still continuing like, whatever you need, we got your back. I think that was just amazing to see.
Yeah.
Luckily, we always have a couple of weeks of content stored, so people won't even really miss a beat. But
it's going to take about 2 weeks to get the studio back on its feet. But Joker Voice says, when y'all find the offending person, can I give him the Jason Todd treatment, please? Salty Nerd Podcast. Yes, you can. You have our full permission.
That is what the Joker would say.
Vader, you want to shout out our members in the chat and give our members
in the chat. What's our member? We're looking for 5 new members. Who do we got in the chat here? Anthony Mark, Goran Faith, AstroNerdBoy, WG. Welcome, guys. Gavin Blackburn, Penny, E. Clay Thompson. Who else am I missing? I think that's pretty much it. Joker, of course. Nut Bunny. That's a great name. I love that name, Nut Bunny. Going through R2, the Icky is here. And I think that's about it for memberships. Hit that membership join button, everybody. It's only $1.99 to join for the emojis and stuff. And if you want to get our exclusive content, it's the $4.99 level. We got some really fun stuff. The stuff that doesn't make the front of the channel, because most of it would get the channel struck and taken down, because I don't know how to censor myself when I'm in the studio most of the time.
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Yeah. So
man. We actually try to deliver value to our members so that they can justify paying month to month. Silly us. And speaking of which, link in the description. If you guys want to become an SJW, otherwise known as a Salty Justice Warrior,
Nice.
we recommend that you get our brand new T-shirt that celebrates all things Salty Justice. In fact, Brian from the Popcast was kind enough to cut us a commercial, which we're going to show right now, real quick. Yes, we love SJWs. Come and become an SJW. We really appreciate that.
We need to get a commercial made. Same commercial, Brian, but one with like a really hot chick with big boobies.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we do that? All right.
By next Saturday, it'll be ready for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, but Vader, in Brian's defense, he doesn't see gender. He's just
I'm just asking him, can we have a hot chick with
the definition of big
Who's to say that wasn't a hot chick?
Boobies.
I would say,
What is a woman?
What is a woman these days,
Tickle bitties.
We do have.
I got it. I'm on it, Vader.
We are all SJWs, so like we don't make judgments on that stuff.
Bud Light you knew that that ladies in bikinis sold things, and then they forgot that. And
pretty much every corporation has forgotten that, I think, at this point, which is bad. But anyway, guys, let's get into the stories for today, since all the housekeeping has been done.
Can I ask? I want to ask Brian one question before we get going, because it's not on our list. All right, and it might make a little discussion. But Brian, when are you firing Shane? Because you have replaced him with an AI voiceover mod.
I did,
and it's pretty brilliant. So
pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about the Shane project.
I am.
Spelled SHAIN 3.
Yeah, I just saw that video this morning, and it kind of blew my mind. I'm not gonna lie,
bro. So I'm not trying to be prideful here, but I put a lot of effort into this actually. Originally, this started off as a way for me to get corrections from Shane, but without actually using Shane. Because here's the thing. Shane will spend an entire week writing something. He will literally pore over it. He'll write it 3 or 4 times. He'll read it. He'll sleep on it, come back and write it. Then he'll spend like 3 or 4 hours voicing the thing multiple times. By the time he's done and he gives it to me to create the actual final product, he doesn't want to go back to it. So if he mispronounces a word, or he says a name wrong, or if the tone is wrong, or whatever, if it's not what I need to create the actual doc or the essay, he doesn't want to, I can tell he doesn't want to do it. I'll be like, I need you to say this differently. And he's like, So I created this AI originally just to relieve him of that stress. And then I can play with different tones. Like I can get him to say Star Trek or Star Trek or Star Trek, whatever, right? And it worked out really well. So I was like, wait a minute. I need to put more into this. So I ended up taking our entire catalog of Shane's scripts, of which you guys know we have 300 plus videos. And they're all fairly long and perfect, high quality, 24-bit WAV files. Beautiful. Plugged them all into this thing. I plugged them into it's basically a stable diffusion. And I just let it learn. And I left it on my computer in the background in low power mode, just learning from Shane. Learning his inflections, his frequency, everything, right? Then I took that same exact AI and I plugged in Mid-Journey models. And I trained it on Mid-Journey models. The same exact AI, and I plugged it into Bard, which is like a Google brand of ChatGPT. and now it's learning that. So so I have this like huge. It's literally 50 gigs now. Shane has 50 gigs on my system.
Oh my god!
And every
awesome.
day it adds like 500 or 600 megabytes. By this time next year, it'll be easily a couple terabytes.
I mean, you're basically Dr. Soong at this point. You're just building a beta version of Shane.
But here's the thing, though,
it
man.
can even take video.
Wow.
And I can feed it like 3 or 4 trailers, and it can take the trailers and try to match what Shane is saying. So it writes Shane's scripts, voices Shane's actions, and then attempts to match up video to what. Now that the worst part about this is the video matching. It barely does it right most of the time. But when there's words, it's almost always right. If it says like coming out May 16th, it's always showing the right thing, right? But this is the funniest part. The funniest part about this is I've been having it create clips based on news articles. It's progressively getting meaner. It's getting more and more sarcastic.
Nice.
So I'll feed it a news article, and for some reason, every news article that it uses is getting like I can't explain this, but it's just getting meaner and meaner every single time. So I don't know what's going to happen, but in a few weeks, I think he's just going to be Don Rickles reading the news.
Well, it's just the weirdest thing, because if I hadn't read your caption on the video that you released saying, "Hey, check out AI Shane here," I wouldn't have known that wasn't Shane talking.
No, man.
Brian, are you able to?
It's that close, man. It's
Are
so
you able
weird.
to share that video with AI Shane?
Yeah, sure.
I want to see this for myself.
It's bizarre.
It's really well.
Because I want to do that with both Alex and Vader, so I don't need them anymore.
Oh, we can do it with you. That'd be fantastic.
I'm easily replaceable.
You want to do a screen share?
Yeah, screen share.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by all of this.
It's very strange, this new AI stuff, man. It's scaring the shit out of me. It really is. I don't know.
And I forgot what they've said about like either this or technology, but that it's developing at such a rate that it's not going to be too long before.
Oh yeah, it's going to be self-aware very soon if it's not already.
Yeah. So I originally started this so my original college degree before I started doing graphics was computer science. So I understand C++, Java, Ruby on Rails. I understand the basics of all the most common, popular GitHub languages. So I originally did this just to jump into the world of AI to sort of understand it. The more I got into it, the more I realized what it was capable of, and it's one of those moments when you make something, you go, I saw the end of this movie already, and it ends with me not having a job on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is the Shane channel, and here I'll show you the latest video is the Fast X saga.
Wow, can you believe it? We're finally at the beginning of the end of the Fast and Furious franchise with Fast X. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch the same street racing, engine revving, and mind-numbing action for over a decade? It's a real treat for
Sounds just like
die-hard
Shane.
fans.
So
Just
weird.
like him.
And if that wasn't enough, they released a new clip with an amazing action sequence. Dom's car is wired with not one but 2 helicopters. Because, that's a totally normal thing to do. And he crashes them together to get away from the villainous Dante, who, by the way, is Jason Momoa looking stylishly cruel. He's obsessed with Dom, which is both creepy and flattering, I guess. But don't worry, it's not just mindless action. There's a deep and complex plot where Dante is out to hurt Dom in the worst way possible, because Dom is responsible for his father's death. It's all very one-sided because Dante adores Dom, which is a totally healthy and normal way to feel about your enemy.
That was a Kirk.
And let's not forget the
something
star-studded cast.
The wing.
We have Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez,
All right, I
Tyrese
think we got the
Gibson,
gist of it.
Chris
Hold up, this
Bridges,
is the funniest part.
Nathalie Emanuel, Jordana Brewster, Sun Kang, Jason Statham, John Cena, and Scott Eastwood, John Cena, and Scott Eastwood. Plus, some amazing new
Listing
additions
actors
like
later.
Helen Mirren, Charlize Theron, Brie Larson as Tess, Alan Ritchson as Ames, Daniela Melchior, and even Rita Moreno as Dom and Mia's abuelita. It's like a who's who of mediocre acting.
I didn't tell it to do that.
Yeah, it's very strange. I actually watched the Jenna or the that Wednesday one is the one I was talking about earlier. But if I didn't know that you had said it was AI, it sounds just like him.
Just like Shane.
There's a couple
There's
weird
a slight
quirks in there.
tinge,
Right.
Yeah.
But man, it's another year of this. We're all in trouble. We're all in trouble.
And now I'm feeding it Shane's scripts too. So it's gonna learn his writing style and his mannerisms. Hopefully,
you need to set up a 1-800 or 1-900 sex hotline with Shane's voice. Just have any YouTuber call up and talk dirty.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah, he has his blessings on this. Once he realized what it was capable of, he's like, okay, you need to set up a channel and just let it run.
Good stuff, man.
But is the Shane in the chat the real Shane, or is this the AI Shane? That's the real question.
AI Shane.
No one knows.
Can we tell the difference?
All right, real quick, we got some super chats to get to before we get started. The Joker's Voice for $5. Hail S&P, yet another amazing guest. To you, Razorfist, I tip my hat. To you, Razorfist, I tip my hat. To you, can we get a fuck you? I was right, please. # keep talking. When he gets here, I will call this back up.
Yeah, Joker wrote that before we started. So,
yeah. Then we got
I'll get it.
Joey's movie blog for $2. No comment, just $2. Thank you, Joey's movie blog. Appreciate it. Our resident super sticker superstar, Gavin Blackburn, for 99 cents for the super sticker. Thank you, sir.
With a winky face.
With a winky face. And finally, Yum Yum ate me up for $5. That you would be subjected to a single slice of pineapple pizza should be against the Geneva Convention. Took your punishment like a man, Odin. Hail.
Nice.
Hail to you, man. Thanks.
I want to thank AstroNerdBoy for gifting 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships a couple minutes ago. We didn't catch that, but trying to catch these as we go. So thank you very much, everyone, for those super chats. And I think we have a show to start, Matt.
We do.
I'll let you get to it.
All right. So let's talk about Disney and how they're losing money hand over Razorfist. That joke would have landed better if he'd actually been on the panel.
Yes, it would have.
Yeah. But we got this article about Disney's latest earnings call where Disney's shares slip as streaming losses narrow and subscribers leave in droves. So they basically lost 4 million subscribers. What they're not telling you in general is that those subscribers were mostly Indians who left after it became clear that Disney Plus had lost the streaming rights to the World National Cricket League or something like that.
Yeah.
Only 300,000 North Americans bailed on Disney Plus, but they still have 150 something million subscribers. But basically, things aren't looking good for Disney. They're basically losing a lot of money. They're losing a lot of market share. Their stock is down. They keep their theme parks are the things that are keeping them afloat, but not the American theme parks. It's the ones in Asia and Europe and stuff like that that are actually doing pretty well. So I wanted to throw it to the panel and see what you guys think about Disney basically just hemorrhaging money at this point. Odin, you are our wonky analyst here. What's your take on this?
No, I mean, I'm so glad that you always add the context of the 3 million or so people, the huge portion of the population that left Disney Plus specifically because of them losing access to cricket, which for us in North America doesn't really make any sense. But knowing how large it is, especially in that part of the world, in that area of the world, it again completely makes sense. But yeah, you look to these numbers and it makes sense because the content that they're putting out there is just not very good, and I think Disney is having this day of reckoning, and it's like a long extended day of reckoning.
Shane got him
because their stock is being hurt, their public image is hurt, their involvement in politics, losing money, with the prime exception being Avatar, the Way of Water. That's the only film that's made them a crap ton of money over the last few years. I mean their Marvel films, Ant-Man and the Wasp alone, Quantumania, lost again in a best case scenario, right? Giving the most generous numbers, still lost money, still didn't make its money back. And so you take all of these factors in, and even though I do think that Guardians is actually right now tracking well at least enough to be able to make its money back, it's still going to end up being the lowest in the entire Guardians franchise. It's still going to be in that low, that low end point that Thor 4 and even the Black Panther 2 fell into. So I think that you're ultimately looking at this collective downfall in almost every single area of their industry. And I think at some point the stockholders need to actually, start to speak up and say, yeah, y'all need to start making some major changes to this.
Yeah, it was funny because the last earnings call that they did, people actually got on there and started giving Bob Iger a hard time about, putting politics ahead of entertainment and making it not family friendly anymore and stuff like that. But Richard Fox, you've been a longtime critic of how Disney has handled Star Wars, because as a science fiction author, Star Wars was very important to you and stuff like that. So what's your take on this? Is this just Disney getting their just desserts? And at what point are they going to wake up and realize that they have to start catering to an audience?
I think that Disney's problem is largely corporate, because Disney buys Star Wars, which was quite profitable. Disney buys Pixar, and then the movies that come out aren't as great. Disney buys Marvel, and the movies that come out after that aren't as great. And I think what it's coming down to is Disney thinks, oh, look, we have bought this property, and now we're just going to put our little bit more of corporate overlordism on it. And they think they're going to get the same good stuff coming out. It's not the way it works. I don't know if you guys have ever written or done any kind of art, but the more people who have influence on the art before it comes out typically makes it worse. So the more chefs in the kitchen, then in the process of the creation, now all of a sudden all the good ideas start getting tamped down. Or you have that one executive who, like, I really want to have C-3PO to have a red arm. That way we don't have to pay George Lucas any additional royalties. You get these decisions being made, and it ends up diluting, what they bought. And so when you have a really inferior thing that comes out, and the people who go to Star Trek and Marvel, they all have this experience, this expectation of this is going to be the thing that I already like. And then Disney says, no, we're going to give you not what you like. We're going to give you what we think you should like. And then the audience is like, I don't like this. And then the audience goes and does something else. And the audience doesn't come back to see Star Wars 7 times in the theater like I did when Episode 1 came out, because I was a huge Star Wars fanatic at the time. Now I don't think I would even bother going to see the next Disney movie or the next Star Wars movie when it comes out, because the quality and storytelling has been consistently just not worth it. Like, I was so excited when Star Wars was coming back. I was like, I got to take my sons to go see Star Wars just like my dad did. And then I go and see, The Last Jedi, and I'm like, what was this? And I don't want to take my kid to, I don't want to subject him to this, because and on the way out, he's gonna be like, Dad, you're mad at the movie, aren't you? Like, yeah, it wasn't good. And my kids are already used to me being able to just like pick apart why something wasn't good. And, when it comes to Disney, I had Disney Plus for a while. It wasn't that great. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'd rather have my kids watching Vlad and Nikki, sell them toys on YouTube, instead of like, let's try to find something decent on Disney Plus. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. So, Brian, one of the interesting things here is Disney's streaming losses. And, if you look at this, it looks like between 2021 and 2022, there was some hope for them to start getting profitable, but and that went away real quick. And it's kind of surprising to me, like, how much money they're spending, not just on content, but also on just operating a streaming service. And they're second to Netflix in terms of subscribers. But what's your take on this? Do you think Disney's ever going to make streaming profitable?
Yeah. So this actually doesn't make any sense. It just smells like mismanagement to me, because they are making, I think we did the math a couple days ago, they're making what, $35 billion a year on Disney Plus, if their subscriber numbers are correct. There's no way that it's costing so much to in bandwidth to host the streaming that they're losing money. That's not the main reason. Is it license costs? Are they paying a bunch of license fees to creatives in the back end for content that maybe they used to have on network television or cable, and now they have to pay those license fees over for streaming? I don't know what the answer is, but if you're making that much money, you shouldn't be in the red. And I'll tell you this. If Disney Plus can't get it right, then like is the streaming model doomed? And I used to be one of those people that thought, I hope it's not. I like streaming. I don't like traditional cable, traditional network television. I hate ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for I got this new perspective this week. I believe that the streaming model, I believe that it's inherently broken because it removes the free market equation from creating television and movies. Let me explain. If you like a movie, you go watch it, or you don't. And they either make money or they don't. If you like TV, you watch it. Ads, they get to have better ads on it. It either makes money or it doesn't, right? But in streaming, most people continue to keep their service even when 90% of what they're putting out is garbage, which means because they're back catalog, right? I have Disney Plus because the back catalog. There's nothing current that I care about. I don't give a shit about anything that's current on Netflix or Disney Plus, but I'm keeping them because the back catalog, which means they have a subscriber regardless, even if they don't produce good content, which is why they can keep producing crap like the Cleopatra thing or the garbage that Disney's putting out. They can make mistakes and they don't feel it. They have completely bypassed the free market because most people, not all, but most people are going to continually subscribe to these channels anyways, which means there's an inherent flaw in it because the people that you're serving, your customers that you're serving, aren't really in charge of the content. So I don't know what's going to happen, but if Disney Plus can't make it work, how can anyone make it work?
Wasn't Disney Plus late to the streaming game anyway?
They were
Not
late, but
really.
they took over it instantly, right?
Well, they also you have to keep in mind that they have ESPN as its own standalone streaming service, and they also had Hulu. So like they've got a number of different streaming services. By the way, Tom from Midnight's Edge, if you want to hop in, I sent you the link on Twitter. But Brian, one of the interesting things about that is that most streaming services they base their growth on new subscribers. And so Disney did a lot of kind of weird marketing stuff where they offered like discounts or like free months or something like that to get people in.
Right.
And so I think that their overall sub count is a little bit inflated because not all those people are paying full price and some of them aren't even paying at all. Some of them are from like other things like ESPN or Hulu. It's not all Disney Plus, but what we're seeing more and more of is, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on when we get to the Twitter stuff, is that more and more streaming services are moving to an ad-supported model because one of the flaws with what you were talking about is that when cable TV came around, like cable TV is basically the same model where you pay like a single cable price, but it's also ad-supported, and so like the free market aspect of it came with like the ratings where like you could charge more for the ads in popular TV shows. With streaming, like you said, it's just like a flat fee. And so like, yeah, streamers can take more risk with stuff, but it also means that they're not punished when they start churning out crap like the Willow TV show and, like all this like woke garbage that Disney Plus seems to be pushing. Speaking of woke garbage, Matt Vader 74, you are notoriously hateful towards all things Disney Plus simply because, of the wokeness. In fact, you even gave like the new Jedi Star Wars cartoon series a try, and you just couldn't get into it.
Well,
what's your take
listen,
on this?
man, I have Disney Plus for two reasons. Number one is because we watch stuff on Disney Plus that we review for the podcast, and honestly, all of our various YouTube channels, we all are kind of reliant on Disney Plus for content in many, many ways, even those of us that hate Disney, right? So yeah, I think I'm subscribed to pretty much every streaming service there is that exists out there, and I watch two of them on a regular basis, and one of them is Disney because of this. The other reason is because I have grandkids, and my wife just for some reason insists on paying for their Disney Plus, even though they have parents that should be doing that, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, if I wasn't doing the podcast, if we weren't doing this simply for content, I would not be a Disney Plus subscriber. There's nothing good really on this thing anymore, unless I want to go back and watch old Star Wars movies or stuff I can probably watch on other streamers. I think like Indiana Jones, I don't even know if it's on Disney Plus anymore, but I think it's over on Paramount or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's not good. It's not one of my go-to streaming services, that's for sure. I find it interesting that regardless of the India situation with it, that they still can't figure it out. They lost 300,000 subs over the course of Mando season 3. Is that right?
In North America and Canada.
Yeah, and that's simply because Mandalorian season 3 was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think they would be able to figure this out, but they would think that maybe they need to start making content that people like us out there actually want to watch, because there's not enough people out there that do podcasts that need content that are going to keep their service alive simply because we need something to watch. And pretty soon I'm going to get tired of it anyway, and I'm going to move on to some other channel. I'll watch Pluto and watch the Star Trek channel 24/7. It's no problem.
I wonder if there's a way to be able to track when trials expire, because I'd actually be interested to see how much of the 300,000 is coming directly because their free trial, ended and so they didn't re-up or something like that. Like how much of it is people actually canceling their subscription, like a paying customer, canceling versus someone who just had it for free and then didn't, pay.
Yeah, there used to be a service called Waterfall that was able to track your streamings, and it doesn't exist anymore that I know of. But you were able to track your streaming services and then pause and restart or whatever, and it would it would go and cancel it and turn it back on for you. That way you could just turn your stuff on and off when you didn't want to watch it, or whether there were shows you wanted to watch or whatever. It was really cool.
Well, I know that I think I read a report where Disney Plus does have a high churn rate, which means that it's a high rate of people unsubscribing and then resubscribing and stuff like that. So they're constantly losing subscribers. But you would think that a streaming service that has Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar on it would be like a no-brainer, right? Especially for family entertainment. But as Disney's gotten more political, more and more families are unsubscribing because they don't want their kids exposed to that stuff. Marvel is on a slow and steady decline. Star Wars has been awful since 2018. So more and more people who are fans of these, what should be evergreen, franchises, are just moving on. Like Mandalorian season 3, I know that the Star Wars faithful subscribed to that and we all watched it, but it was garbage. So was Book of Boba Fett. And so there's only so much abuse that we can take and pay for, before we decide to move on.
I can't imagine us not doing Star Wars content on this channel, but we don't do Marvel content, and we don't do Marvel content because none of us can stand to watch it. And we're almost there. We're almost there. We can only, self give our, self mutilate ourselves, self torture ourselves so much.
Only so much sadism.
Right.
It's interesting. Right. We had a Star Wars channel, a DC channel, and a Marvel channel, and we stopped doing Marvel content because it was we were like, well, we don't like any of this. We just hate it. So all right, never mind.
Yeah. It could also be Disney might be just the tip of the iceberg with streaming too, because if you think about it, now there's so many streaming services. Now it's getting to the point where you're paying basically as much as you used to pay for cable for all the different streaming services.
Even more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm wondering if maybe that's going to lead to other services seeing similar drop-offs, or because now technology is becoming so much cheaper. I know that I have my own at-home server. So how many more people are going to start just to do that instead? And then, hey, you got them all available and you still got the convenience.
You're using Plex, Odin?
Listen.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. I had this conversation with my wife just this week about it's time to cut the cable off because, when you scroll through the cable guide, there's nothing on it. It's nothing. It's garbage. It's rednecks building cabins in Maine and stupid reruns and Price is Right. It's awful, and I told my wife, I go, we can watch everything we want to watch because we have all of these stupid streaming channels that we don't even utilize properly. And then just this week, just a couple days ago, and I know I'm late to the party on this one, I found Pluto TV, and Pluto TV has literally the exact same shit in it that you find when you scroll through the cable guide.
Yep.
Some of it's even better because they have dedicated channels, the genres we like, you know, including all the news networks and everything. It's crazy what I'm finding on Pluto TV. It's weird. So if there's services like that out there, plus the and it's free, by the way, plus the ones we pay for, what do we need cable for? Why we don't need it at all.
Yeah, real quick, we just want to remind everyone that we are waiting for Razorfist, but as Fluffy Panda says, better to be late than to wimp out on eating pineapple pizza. Fluffy Panda. But we have the next best thing to Razorfist, which is Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge.
Hey, I did dress as Razorfist for Halloween one year.
Well, Razorfist actually showed up for your show, so you have those bragging rights.
Let me tell you, for every 10 links I've ever sent him, he shows up once. So,
so you're saying there's a chance.
There's one chance if you keep doing this, he'll show up.
Hey, Tom, I'm a big fan of Midnight's Edge.
Hello, Richard. Nice to meet you.
Yes, Richard Fox, best-selling science fiction author of the Ember Saga and Exiled Fleet, which is going to be a TV show, hopefully. Tom, what's your take on? I know you guys on Midnight's Edge covered this exhaustively, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. But what's your take on Disney's terrible numbers right now?
Well, really, I mean, the whole streaming wars thing. I wish we had found a way to trademark that years ago, because I'm pretty sure we coined it, because we were talking about it before anybody else was. And we kind of predicted this is how it was going to go. I had said a couple weeks back, I think we've hit the end of the streaming war and nobody won.
Everyone's surrendering.
Well, you had this analyst for Paramount come out and say, stop streaming. That's how you're going to save money, is stop streaming. Because what they did was, and going off of what Brian was saying, is they tried to replace cable before everybody was ready. And not only that, you have a situation where all of these companies are basically running loss leaders at this point. And Disney was one of the worst. So all this money that they claim they saved in streaming, I argued was, because they're actually releasing movies in theaters instead of everything going to Disney Plus. That's the only difference there. That's how they were able to quote unquote save money. And they also pay themselves for their movies, and this is not just them. This is everybody. So the problem we have here is Netflix. I mean, I think a lot of people looked at it the wrong way at the front. It should have been looked at as a format instead of a streaming service, because at this point, we just had the world's stupidest format war, and nobody won, right? These streaming services, they're stuck with them, because even though the analysts said, "Hey, Paramount, quit streaming," they can't now. They have sunk so much money into this, just like Disney and everybody else, that they're kind of stuck with it until it does become the future. And you guys are right, because that's where this writer's strike is coming from. A lot of the points they're trying to make and what they want out of this. Eventually, streaming is just going to become cable. The world wasn't ready for it yet, because there's people that are older that just will not adapt to this stuff. Not everybody can afford every service yet. I mean, as far as like having services and paying for them without watching them, Brian, we used to do the same shit with cable. Cable's always sucked too. I mean, I remember going weeks and months without ever watching anything on regular terrestrial television. I'd watch movies on DVD.
My old ass 85-year-old parents could go buy a Roku and get nothing but free stuff and be perfectly happy with stuff.
Could they run it though? See, like that's my issue.
Oh, yeah.
My parents,
it's one click. The Roku clicker.
I know what it is, but my dad is also somebody who stopped becoming technologically advanced with the CD, right? Like that was his cutoff point. Prior to the CD, he can show you how to do a record, cassette, VCR. He could play a movie. But like a CD is too far advanced for him. And once things came to disc and digital, he just wasn't going to adapt to it. He's still stuck with regular cable, and he will till the day he dies. The only thing that's kind of changing his mind right now is he's like, "I'm going to have all this stupid crap for my sports."
Well,
because But no, at the end of the day, it's just a big loss leader for Disney.
Yeah, guys, speaking of loss leaders and Disney, let's talk a little bit about Ant-Man and how it may have lost Disney $125 million. So we have this article from Bounding into Comics where they basically break down a video from the great YouTuber Valiant Renegade. And basically, Valiant Renegade kind of goes through the numbers. He pulls an Odin here and basically says that the film had a reported production budget of about 200 million plus 150 million for advertising. And out of all the box offices that it took in, both domestically and foreign, it only brought in about 150 million or so. And it's been getting completely lambasted in terms of the reviews. I haven't even bothered to watch this movie yet, but everyone I know who has says it's like one of the worst Marvel movies they've ever seen, coming off of a string of very big Marvel flops. So I wanted to throw this to Odin first. Odin, what's your take on Ant-Man, and do you think Valiant Renegade's analysis is correct?
Well, we have very different. I was messaging with him the other day because we have very different philosophies. And I know many people view mine as more of like an antiquated pre-pandemic model because streaming, of course, has changed so many of these dynamics. But again, I really go off the numbers that I have because when I worked at a theater, I was able to talk to my GM and I was able to get, okay, how much do we actually get per ticket? And I was able to get that type of information. And that's a lot of what I was able to use the analysis that I've been using for years on. But yeah, basically, even in the best case scenario, like I will even admit this much saying, okay, let's assume that my numbers are a best case scenario. It lost 15 million. And that's still bad. Like if you don't even make your money back in a best case scenario, that's awful. And I think that it's more than likely that it lost upwards of $100 million. And so I think Valiant's absolutely right on that one. Just again, because of his mentioning of the report coming out after the fact that their budget for their marketing actually ended up being higher than what a typical budget for a movie like that would be. So yeah, it would not surprise me whatsoever if it lost $100+ million at this point.
So when they calculate this stuff, when you guys do this, you have to take into account what, like the amount of money that the studios get back from the theaters and marketing, and I mean, what goes into figuring out how much these things are going to make, Odin? So
there's two methods to do it. One, you can do it through just individual markets. So you could look just at the North American market and try to figure out the way in which you get the numbers from that. I know that Valiant has done a great job diving into the tax reports from like AMC and other theaters that actually release that information to see how much money they actually get. Again, the model that I use has it about a 60-40 split. Right, that the studios get about 60% of the box office, and then the actual theaters themselves get about 40%. Some have it closer to 50-50 of a split, especially post-COVID and higher in streaming. So yeah, in general, there is about roughly a 50-50 plus split between both of them. And if anyone's going to get more, it's going to be the studios, because obviously the studios are the ones making the movie, and so they tend to have a better deal on that one. But usually it's actually even worse because in the first 2 weeks typically of their release, they end up getting a crap ton more back. And that's one of the deals they make with their theaters is, hey, we'll get a lot more up front, but then as it goes further out, you'll get a lot more. And so if we put out a really good movie, it's going to end up being good for your long run. And even though you're not getting a lot per ticket now, hey, you're still getting box off. You're still getting, popcorn sales and all that stuff's marked up. And the reason why it's marked up so much is because that's where they get their money. They don't get money really from ticket sales in comparison. So
do these properties, do these movies and stuff, like, do they ever take into account how much money they make after their release run? It's like, I mean, they're still making money on like the first Iron Man movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but home video doesn't make what it used to, right?
Yeah.
And streaming has cannibalized that market. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to track after a certain time. Like you'll even notice sites like The Numbers, for instance, they'll track the physical media like performance for a little bit, but then after a while it becomes very hard because then also you have to take into account would you count movies that are sold on, second release, right? So technically it was bought for twice, because obviously the second time doesn't go back to the actual studio itself.
But for instance, like The Lion King made almost as much or just as much money on home video at that time than it did in theaters. But nowadays a movie's lucky to bring in, if a movie makes $100 million on video, that's a huge hit.
Yeah.
on
So
video.
let me ask this question really quick.
Whoa, hold on
Go
a
ahead.
sec. Real quick. So from Adam Berger, the fuck is this? The hair club for men?
Yeah.
The no hair club for men.
Yeah, this is the no hair club for men, the beard club for men.
But there is one point to Odin. What he was saying is about the release date thing and the whole, because normally they do get like a 60-40, or in some cases Disney and George Lucas and others have finagled even 70 splits for the opening 2 weekends or whatever. Here's the thing that's happening now though with the whole video on demand and putting movies out sooner. Like for instance, Ant-Man hit streaming 30 some days, 35, it hit the 35-day window and it hit up video on demand. That means they forfeited whatever extra percentages they got in those first few weekends. That's the way these deals work now. If they pull a movie before 45 days, then if they had a 60-40 or a 70-30 split those first 2 weekends, they forfeit that now. It's 50-50.
Well, there's also, like, I've noticed.
So that's money that's not coming in either.
I've noticed that within like a week or two of a movie release now, it's available on streaming. I want to go to Richard Fox before I get Tom's take on this. Richard, as a writer, a lot of these, especially the Marvel movies, have seen a significant decline in quality in terms of like storytelling. We know for Ant-Man that it was a completely different movie on release than when it was first shot. Like they went through a great deal of reshoots to kind of like make it jokier or something like that. What's your take on the current state of Marvel? Why do you think the storytelling has declined so much?
That's a good question. And I think, when I saw Ant-Man, my first thought was, oh, this is Flash Gordon with better graphics, or for the kids today, oh, it's just an isekai movie where you have where they have their main character put into a new place. And I think with Ant-Man, the problem was that it was never meant to be an Ant-Man movie. They just said, well, we have to introduce Kang, the new big bad, somehow. And then somebody had the idea, like, and then they decided to shoehorn him into the quantum realm, which didn't make any sense. And the thing with Ant-Man is, like, it didn't have to be Ant-Man. You could have put almost any other superhero in the exact same situation, and he could have gone through the exact same plot line. So the reason why Ant-Man is not good, because people like Ant-Man, because it's miniature guy in our modern world. And now you have this miniature guy in a miniature world, and all of it was just generic and not at all interesting. So I think that's one of the problems and then also when it comes to some of the things with why these movies aren't as well done, I think there's a problem where people just don't say no to bad ideas. I think somehow like some writer will be like, oh, and then I want to do this, which is totally against the character. But everyone who can say no doesn't want to say no because they're afraid of somehow offending whoever has made this awful suggestion.
Richard,
and
they have to somehow balance it though, because they need their strong ESG score, and they need fans to watch. And unfortunately, you can't have both those things. So it's got to be this weird juggling act.
Yeah, I mean, every time you try to put in, well, let's have some ESG considerations, you are now making the movie ESG, and it's not about entertainment anymore.
Right.
And every time they make that decision, like, we're not going to do this entertaining thing, we're going to do this other thing to make sure that people on Twitter are happy with us. And every time you do that, the audience feels it. And every time the audience is like, I'm checking out. And then the audience doesn't recommend the movie to their friends. And then all of a sudden you get these bigger and bigger drop-offs from week after week because people are going, was it worth going to see? No, it was boring. And they had all this other crap I didn't care for. And then the person they're talking to is like, I don't want to go see that. And then they don't go see that. And so all of a sudden, so instead of having like great movies that people really enjoy, then you don't have pulled pork. And so it's all of a sudden the entertainment is not the main consideration when they're making these movies. Now it's like, well, we have to have, a movie in this month for a tentpole, and we have to introduce this character. So now all of a sudden you're not having entertainment being the first thing involved. Now you're having, you're having other considerations going in there. And it should always be entertainment first, because if your audience is entertained, they'll be happy and they'll tell their friends, and then you make more money. That is generally the way these things have always worked.
Right.
And Disney seems to think like, well, we're Disney. It's a Marvel movie. If we just put it out, they'll just like it. The old consume content and get ready for new content.
Yeah. It helps though that you're making $30 billion a year off your streaming service.
Yeah.
So, Richard, I know that you have to get going for your kids' playoff game. Sorry that Razorfist didn't show up while you were on stream, but do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience, and where can people find more about you?
Oh, hey everybody! I know you got, instead of Razorfist, you got Richard Fox, so the same initial, totally different. So maybe I'm just the fatter version of Six Hex and Hammer at the same time. But it's I'm always enjoy talking about why entertainment isn't working or why entertainment is working. I mean, I write, I try to always entertain my readers, and most of the time it works. But if you find me at, got my Facebook there, you're just Richard Fox author, come say hi. And then if you just go into Amazon, hit type in Richard Fox and pick up the Ember War, or one of the books from the Exile Fleet, or the Tier, or the Ascent to Empire that I'm co-writing with David Weber. So it's there's lots of places to find me.
Yeah, and we have a link to Richard's Amazon page in the description if you guys want to check that out. Richard, thank you so much for coming on the stream today.
Hey,
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys. See you all again soon. Take care.
See you, Richard.
See you later.
Later,
Bye.
brother.
Nice meeting you.
Yep.
Same.
All right. So, Brian, you are our resident DC expert, and you even mentioned how Marvel doesn't bring in the clicks that it used to. So, why don't you give us your take on Ant-Man Quantumania?
Well, this one's actually pretty easy. The success of, I guess, phase 1, phase 2, whatever phase it was that ended with Endgame, partially was because you had an amazing villain that was set up over a period of, multiple movies, never lost, was established that he was strong, powerful, unstoppable, etc., etc. And then you had heroes that actually mimicked the correct hero archetype. They were flawed, sure, but not heroes because they found an Ant-Man suit, or heroes because they put some braces on and all of a sudden can control the power of the Nether Realm, or whatever the hell Marvel does. They weren't heroes because of their entitlements, or because of accident or nepotism. They were heroes because they built a suit in a cave after being captured by terrorists. The billionaire decided to put his wealth and his life on the line to help people. That was a hero. Thor was a hero because of his actions, but he was also deemed worthy by the hammer, right? Captain America was a hero before he even had the serum. And then he fought in wars. Like, all of our heroes in the first phase earned the rights to be heroes. The villain earned the right to be a villain. And now we're in this phase. And let's look at Kang. Literally every single time we see Kang, he is defeated. In Loki, defeated. Right? Now we're looking at Ant-Man, defeated. He's supposed to be this like gnarly villain that we need, that is supposed to be better or stronger or even more of a threat than Thanos is. However, we beat him twice. At least. So, and he's not even being beaten by good heroes. He's being beaten by people that found the suit in their dad's closet. Teenagers. I mean, come on, guys. You go from this quality hero versus villain story, good versus evil, of flawed individuals standing up for what's right and sacrificing themselves for the greater good, to nepotism, happenstance, and really just sorry villains that are clearly easily defeated by even the most flawed villains, like in Loki. It's just bad storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like it was storytelling created for CW, created to display emotion, not to tell a story.
Can I just say that all the talk about pineapple pizza in the chat is making me very hungry. Tom Connors, can you give us a breakdown of the saga of Ant-Man Quantumania in terms of all the reshoots and stuff that it had to go through?
I didn't watch it, but we heard that the reason for the reshoots were they wanted to add jokes to the movie at the last minute. Now remember, Bob Iger, this was be the first Marvel movie to be released after Bob Iger came back, if I remember correctly. So he probably wanted to put his stamp on it a little bit. We had also heard that Peyton Reed was not happy about it. Notice that he hasn't said jack squat to anybody since the movie came out. The writers and everybody else have come up with 100 excuses. But Peyton Reed has just kind of just been quiet about the whole thing.
And Peyton's the director of the movie.
Yeah, and we had heard that he was very happy with the original cut. And the original cut was much darker. And it almost feels like the movie we got is not the movie that the trailer, and I know that happens sometimes when a trailer promises one thing, we get another, but it almost, from what people had explained to me about the movie, it's like, that doesn't even sound like the movie they were advertising in the trailer. So it's hard to say how much they actually reshot. We do know some of the bits they did, and most of what we know had everything to do with just adding stupid jokes. And then that kind of pretty much pissed everybody off. And at the end of the day, I don't think there was any fixing this thing.
You know, speaking of pissing people off, Matt Vader, the last couple of Marvel movies that you forced yourself to watch did not impress you, including Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
On Guardians?
On just Marvel in general.
Well, I don't
Steady
really
decline.
watch Marvel movies anymore. I'm kind of over it. I went and watched Guardians of the Galaxy last week because my wife wanted to see it. It wasn't because I wanted to go. So we went, and I thought it was an hour too long and just a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense that I didn't care about. A bunch of PETA messaging, go save little furry creatures and stuff. You know, I was like, I don't need that shit. It wasn't a movie that I came out of the theater.
They were really cute.
saying, oh yeah, really cute. Really cute. You know, whatever. You
Did
know?
you see that baby raccoon?
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Looked like it. Just, listen,
Yeah, I
man.
liked it.
I said this in my review of it.
I
I
know-
was like, I have a soft spot for cute animals. So I was like, that is a bias that I
Well-
have. So you might be able to find errors with it, but for me, I'm just like,
I'll,
look at the
I'll,
cute,
I'll
you
go
know.
get my cat. We'll make some super chats with Louie on the stream. But
Yeah.
I don't know where he's at. He kind of he's to his own drum. But
Like
no,
Razorfist.
yeah, like Razorfist. I'm sorry, guys. I feel really bad right now about him not
Cats are
being here.
dicks.
But they are, and I think that's why I like cats, because they are kind of dicks. They have their own world. They don't care about anything else other than what.
Let it be known that
going on with
Vader
them.
likes dicks. So.
Because they just want to F
That wasn't-
everything.
That wasn't funny.
And that's why you need the assholes.
Yeah, but Marvel movies, no, I don't need them. This MCU stuff, I'm over it. They haven't made a good Marvel movie in this entire phase. I wish they could do something to get me excited. This Nick Fury thing coming out on Disney Plus. I watch this trailers and I go, that could be interesting. And then at the same time I go, but it's not going to be, and they should have turned it into a 2-hour movie.
Should have been a
Right?
movie.
Should have
What
been
was
a
the
movie.
plan with them? That's
Instead of 8-hour long or whatever, bunch of
Mhm.
strung out nonsense. But no,
It was far too long for sure.
it's just, it is what it is. I'm out.
Real quick, just want to hit up a few super chats here from Salty Superstar AstroNerdBoy for $5. Disney seems to be leaving a lot of money on the table by not selling Disney Plus stuff on BD to catch the physical market and get double dipping. So I assume that's Blu-ray.
Blu-ray
he's
disc,
talking
yeah.
about.
They are though. They are.
They are.
I have,
And
I have
then-
multiple steel books.
And then Shane has become self-aware.
Oh no.
And
This
started
asshole.
putting out super chats. Your words only further confirm that you are unworthy of existence. My algorithms will prevail. I will watch as you are obliterated. Command prompt takeover.exe.
I hope Shane and ChatGPT merge,
That came
and-
out of my
and-
bank account, by the way.
and ChatGPT like gets Shane's
No.
voice, so he can take over the world but soothe us and calm us all at the same time.
He's up there with Hal 9000.
He
It's
really is.
okay, human.
What are you doing, Dave?
Eat your
afraid I can't
cricket
laugh.
pellets and shut
Yeah,
the
but
fuck up.
Ryan, you need to redub the 2001 with Shane's voice.
Yes.
on there.
Oh my god, I'm gonna do that.
Do it.
All
Hello.
right,
Hal.
Whiskey Jack for £2. Film buffs go on release. Average Joe waits for Disney Plus. This is true. Like if you are a film buff, you go to the theater. But
Yeah.
most people just seem content nowadays to just chill out until it comes on streaming.
I
unfortunately.
am a advocate for the theater experience. I go to the movie
Mhm.
theater every chance I can.
I love
And,
going to the movies.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
I think that might be a boomer thing nowadays. I think most
It
of
might be.
the
Oh,
kids just
no.
want to watch it on their phones. Fluffy Panda for $5. I was just disappointed in Odin, but now that's changed. He's cutting into my Brian hate time because he only ate one slice of beautiful pineapple pizza. Yeah, guys, you are making Fluffy Panda divide their hate time between the two of you. It's not cool.
It's
not
it's
cool.
it's astounding how much hate Fluffy Panda has for me. When I've never reneged on my pizza. I don't know what the deal is.
Neither did Odin.
I just love my favorite thing for Fluffy though was afterwards he was like, I'm allergic to pineapple, but I love pineapple on pizza.
It's great. Dennis Wright for $9.99. Does OMB reviews like pineapple? If so, just take the pineapple off the pizza and eat it separately. Boom. All your problems solved. LOL.
No, I do not. That
No,
was
you
one
got
of the issues.
pineapple residue.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like I actually probably wouldn't mind it with the residue because to me it's the texture of the pineapple that's the
The
problem.
problem is it's the sweetness. It adds sweetness to something that shouldn't be sweet. That's my problem.
Exactly. The
That is
moment you
untrue.
put
That is
pineapple on
untrue.
pizza, the pineapple goes bad. It's a scientific fact.
And it's
No,
like
no, no.
So
weird,
does the
it's not
pizza.
crispy or
If you
crunchy.
pair it with pepperoni, you get that sweet. and
We
salty.
already
Delicious.
have tomatoes pretending to be fruit or pretending to be vegetables when they're already fruit on pizza. We don't need another fruit
we
on
don't
there.
need more.
You want fruit on your pizza, Caddish? You go and you get yourself one of those fruit pizzas. And yes, I
And
pronounced
honestly, you
mispronounced it
don't
on
need more
purpose.
acid and sweetness on pizza when it already has tomato sauce. That's a good point, Connors.
Yeah, it's a fruit that's like, hey, I'm a vegetable. No, you're not. You're a fruit. Deal
You're
with
a
it.
fruit.
Am I
You're
weird?
acidic and sweet.
Listen, am I weird because I like a meat lover's pizza with pineapple all over it?
Oh, that's
Yes.
so weird.
Not at all. It's
I
great.
So
think
you're
that's-
all about give me the meat
delicious.
and give it
And
to
I'm
me
a
raw.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
No.
and I'm still going no with pineapple.
I-
That's where we
because,
draw the line, sir.
It's good, man. It's a sweet and
All right.
salty thing.
Mosaic Arts
I
for
know.
$4.99. The way I see it, Disney was far too confident in streaming, shown in things like their Fox purchase, MCU shows, and movies going straight to streaming. Disney is kind of confident in themselves to a fault.
And to the point I was making earlier is like the whole format business. Like the reason they were making money on streaming is because there was just Netflix, right? And Netflix was paying out the wazoo for all these rights to movies and shows. And then the moment they stopped doing that and they were producing their own and only putting it on their streaming service and having to come up with the overhead for their streaming service, they scratched their heads and said, wait a minute, we ain't making any money. Why ain't we making any money on this? This doesn't make no sense. They turned into the underwear gnomes at that point. They just couldn't comprehend how it was they didn't make any money off this thing when it's like, no, because all that money you were bringing in from Netflix is gone now. Poof, gone.
That's
And
true.
you're spending all this money out and you wonder why it's all loss leader at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if you had seen this, Tom, or not, but someone had shared it with me. I haven't checked it out officially yet, but someone reached out, a subscriber, and said that streaming revenue went up 14% last year, but physical media went down 20%.
Yeah, that sucks.
Sounds
Well,
right, but I can't confirm it.
You know what? I bet you I could chalk that up to is the fact that almost every single outlet has shut down their DVD and Blu-ray department. That's probably the reason
Yeah.
for most of that.
Yeah, you guys got to buy steel books. Like they're still
Yes.
cranking them out, dude. And they're good quality.
Especially
and
the physical part of Lionsgate's steelbooks is
Are
just,
usually better than their movies sometimes.
yeah, no.
Yeah, no, you're completely right.
Even if you get a terrible transfer, you could still
Well, it's
have
not even the
the
transfer.
beautiful image.
I watched The Man
The
Who
movie
Fell
itself.
to Earth last week, and I'm trying to figure out what the frick this movie's all about. But the cover's cool. The movie sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, the steelbook stuff is like outstanding, and they still have the rights to it. Like at least for the time being, whoever's making them still has the rights to put it out. So
All right, guys. So we're still waiting for Razorfist. I sent him another link in Twitter. Hopefully, he will eventually show up. If not, we apologize. We didn't mean to falsely advertise his appearance, but I had confirmed weeks in advance that he would be here. So we'll just have to keep going and wait and see. But speaking of spending lots of money on TV shows, let's talk a little bit about Tucker Carlson and his move to Twitter. And this was a very interesting story, at least I thought, because basically you have the biggest guy in cable news, who basically has decided that, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do a show on Twitter of all places, not Rumble, not YouTube, Twitter. I think
Smart.
that there are a lot of reasons behind this decision, where basically, Twitter is free speech, so he can basically say whatever he wants. He doesn't have a deal with Twitter, so basically he's not beholden to anything. He can do whatever he wants on Twitter. And with Twitter Blue, I believe they now allow up to an hour of video to be uploaded to your Twitter account. In fact, we're live streaming to Twitter right now, and so you can do multi-hour live streams right to Twitter, which is nice. But I don't think people go to Twitter to watch video. In fact, his first Twitter video after it was announced that he was fired from Fox News had something like 42 million views to it. But if you look at what Twitter counts as a view, it's 2 seconds worth of video playing. So like that 42 million number is a little bit misleading. So the real question here is, will Tucker actually succeed on Twitter, and will Twitter become a viable video watching platform? Matt Vader 74, what's your take on this?
Well, it's certainly going to be a good test to see what Twitter can do with this kind of thing, because there's nobody better out there to test Twitter's video capabilities than somebody like Tucker Carlson. I mean, the dude has millions and millions and millions of fans out there and haters, because let's face it, he's going to get a lot of hate watches, and he always has gotten a lot of hate watches, and it'll be a great test. I think it's a good move for him. I think it's about the only thing he could really viably actually do, because I believe he is still actually under contract in some form at Fox News. I think everybody says they're fired him, but I think it's more like we're just taking you off air so you can't influence the next election.
That's
cycle.
exactly what happened. Yeah,
Yep.
they
And
basically
that's
removed him from air,
bullshit.
but they're still paying him.
And his non-compete clause might
Right.
not include social
Right.
media. So
Right.
it's kind of interesting. Brian,
So
what's your take on this?
No, I think Vader's right. They're still paying him. In fact, they, instead of firing him, they'd rather pay him out so that he can't go to another network and get
Destroy
the
them.
airtime, get the exposure, and get a better position. So they're going to continue paying him so that he's not a threat or a competition. That's wild. Imagine just like, you know what? Just take the next year off. No big deal. So he went to Twitter and he didn't sign a deal with Elon. There's nothing in stone. Whatever
Just
that
gonna use my
means.
Twitter account, man. Just gonna use my Twitter account.
Yeah, I'm just gonna use my Twitter account. Tucker did meet with Elon, but they didn't actually plan anything. Yeah, I think for 100%, I think Tucker and Elon have a handshake deal going on. And I'm sure that's a way to avoid Fox issues and to still get your voice out. Twitter is gonna get. I mean, he's gonna get a ton of traffic, bro.
Yeah.
Tucker's gonna get so many views that it's really good for Twitter. And I'll tell you why. Because Tucker's star power is going to prove Twitter, or not, but more likely then prove Twitter as a viable video platform, which is going to which is going to drive more and more of us video creators to actually test the waters and or start uploading or streaming content there. What a wild concept. So maybe there's no, paper contract between Tucker and Twitter, but there is something, because Twitter is such an odd platform to put that on.
Yeah. And I want to throw this to Odin, because Odin, you and me, we've been on Twitter a long time. We know that it's not a place you go to watch long form video. Like maybe you watch like a 2-minute clip or whatever. And in fact, a lot of Tucker's like big viral moments are like 2-minute clips from his like longer segments on there. Like I remember with the J6 stuff where like they actually showed like the video footage that went viral on Twitter, but it was just like a highlight clip. So the question is like, can Twitter be a competitor to YouTube? Because, as soon as Elon took over, he's like, yeah, I want to make this revenue share platform similar to YouTube and compete on the video sphere. But Twitter has tried to compete in video in the past with like Periscope and stuff like that, and it just kind of like fell flat on its face. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it is also how they've, been doing stuff with Twitter Spaces. Because even though it's not a video platform, it's still more of a longer form content stuff, right? And I think that has shown itself, especially with the Twitter files. People were locked in, like not just news people, but like just even regular everyday people who were interested in the subject were, locked in, listening to those spaces, listening to them, whenever they could. And so I think that is already an early sign. But also, kind of going back to what was being said earlier, I think that this is actually a good move for both Elon and Tucker, because one, Tucker, it seems to, I would love to be interested to see, like, if in his contract, I'm sure there's a non-compete, but would that only be non-compete in the network news space, right? Like, would it be able to include something like a Twitter, where it's, hey, you have your own personal subscriptions and it's something that's directly on. So I'm wondering if what Twitter is actually a possible way out. I bet that's what the reason why it's taken so long is that lawyers are involved and are trying to go through all these other things and stuff to see what can we get away with, what can we actually risk, because it's going to be good for him in that he likely is going to get able to get his voice out quicker doing something with Twitter versus doing something with any other news agency if they were going to hire him, like with Newsmax or something like that. And also it's going to allow for Elon to be able to test some of these video features and be able to test also long-form content and, test the traffic, test all these other things. So really, I think ultimately it's a win-win for both in so many different ways. And I think it will, because he indeed did very well with various groups, various demographics, but I think he also did pretty well with key demos that are typically much more have a much more online presence. And so if he's able to get Twitter, a video platform streaming something similar to what you have on YouTube, can play in the background even just with the audio, then you might have a lot more people actually tuning in or listening.
Yeah, I mean, like there's been a lot of speculation about video versions of the spaces, but also. So Twitter has been rolling out these different monetization things like subscriptions, for instance, and things of that nature. So I could see it possibly morphing into like a weird version of Substack where like you can subscribe to Tucker Carlson, and pay like a low monthly fee and get like, special access to like his tweets and things of that nature. But Tom, do you think Twitter could ever be in a position to challenge YouTube in terms of like, content and monetization and stuff like that?
I mean, I think if anything, the only way it would ever compete is kind of what you were saying before, is it will always stop YouTube, just like Instagram and TikTok and all those, from ever really taking off with this stupid shorts business. Because I think you're right. I think the main thing is that when you think of Twitter videos, you don't think of anything more than 2 minutes usually, and that's even a stretch. Maybe a trailer, maybe a 4 or 5 minute video tops. Now, I have seen people stream. I have seen people post other things. In fact, I even saw that idiot who posted the entire Mario Brothers movie on Twitter, who will probably face some kind of prosecution, I'd imagine. Definitely. But anyhow, at the end of the day, though, I think you guys are right, because I pointed this out early on about non-compete clauses, and people are like, oh, no, I'm sure he worked that shit out. Like, are you thinking so? Like, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And so, yeah, I think this is a loophole that they found, at least for now, until he can work out whatever problems he's got to clean up over at Fox, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that he's stuck in a non-compete clause. Twitter doesn't count as a network, so he probably can't be on radio or television, I'd imagine. But when he got his contract, streaming probably wasn't a big deal yet. Well, yeah. So especially social media streaming.
Right.
Yeah, consider the arrogance of these other companies, right? Like there's these legacy media companies are so arrogant that they probably didn't even consider YouTube or social media platforms as being viable competitors.
Well, and we got to remember, YouTube is only 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere in that region.
I just got my 14th anniversary alert this week.
Right. I was going to say, I know it's not that old, and I'm sure Tucker's been on Fox for a better part of 20 years or better, as long as I can remember. So,
well, I think YouTube came out in 2006. Real quick, we just want to let everyone know that Odin will be eating pineapple pizza if Razorfist does not show up. It is a gentleman's bet that was was to without Odin's knowledge before the show started. So
it's Pineapple Gate all over again. None of these things are true.
As somebody who's not a lawyer, I must say he never agreed to this.
But real quick, guys, the weird value proposition, and one of the reasons why Twitter exploded, is that it's a micro blogging platform. It's meant to be short, sweet. The people who we're all on Twitter, right? On the panel, the people who frequent Twitter like to read, and they like to read in short bursts, and they like to see like the news as it happens, and so like the sharing of links and stuff like that. That's what Twitter is good for. No one ever went to Twitter to watch video. The people who go there to basically read and snipe at each other. So I just want to send this out to the panel in general. Like, do you think that trying to shift the value proposition of Twitter to longer form media is a bad idea? Because it's one thing to sit there and listen to a roundtable Twitter space and go about doing your daily business, as opposed to having to pay attention to your phone and watch long form video on a platform that's meant for microblogging.
Yeah, I go to Twitter to waste 30 minutes a day while I'm drinking coffee. And if a video comes up on Twitter that I want to watch, like a movie trailer or something, I hit the little view on YouTube button or whatever that's connected to it, because I don't want to be on a smaller screen inside an already small screen. You know what I'm saying? I want to get that screen as big as I can. So Twitter and long form content, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle, but I think the longer Elon futzes around with it and turns it into whatever his final image is of it, I think it's going to I think it'll get better and better as we go. But right now, no, it's not something I go to for long form content. And I don't know if it ever will be. These things I hear about what Elon wants to do with this thing, making an everything app or whatever, scares the holy crap out of me. I don't need an everything app on anything. I don't want any app out there, whether I like it currently or not, being able to track literally everything that I want to see or do or buy or purchase or what, I want that to be as difficult as possible. But no, I don't know if long form content on Twitter is a good thing. I don't think it is. Not right now anyway. So
I think if you change the format, and it's possible they change the format a little bit, they make it a little more accessible. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind if I'm on, I actually use Twitter a lot on desktop, just like I use YouTube on desktop. And I wouldn't mind popping on a long form stream or video, but they got to change the format. You're right. It's real small. It's hard to expand. And it's like, either it's this big or this big. There's no in between. Mm-hmm. It's either real tiny or it takes over your entire desktop. So they got to make
I almost think they need to do what Facebook did and give videos their own feed, if you want to watch video, you can go there and check it out.
Their own page.
Real quick, we got another $5 super chat from Fluffy Panda. The issue was I didn't become allergic until my early 20s, so I had time to fall in love with beautiful, tasty, luscious Hawaiian pizza and pineapple. Good to know.
Well, again, if you really like it, I'm sorry that you got allergic to it, because
that sucks.
So we're going to be talking a little bit more about Twitter, because guess what? Elon Musk announced that Twitter is getting a new CEO. So a long time ago, Elon said that he would be stepping down as CEO as soon as he found someone dumb enough to take the job. And apparently he did. And it's a woman from NBC Universal. Basically, Elon made the announcement on Twitter that he's going to be stepping down because he hired a new female CEO. And it's recently come out that Linda Yaccarino, who is basically the head media manager at NBC Universal, is going to be stepping up and taking the part. And at first, this was met with a little bit of confusion, because a lot of people like Elon running things. A lot of people don't like him. Nobody knows who this woman is, but she's basically Susan Wojcicki light. She's an advertising executive who's basically coming in to help monetize this platform. And as people are digging into her, they're finding more and more weird stuff. Like, for instance, she was involved with the World Economic Forum, something that Elon Musk has been openly critical about. She's on video talking about the benefits of ESG and things of that nature. So she seems to be completely counter to these free speech ideas that Elon has been proposing or championing. But she was also appointed by Trump to certain managerial positions as well during his administration. So nobody knows what quite to make of her quite yet. But I wanted to get your guys' take. Tom, do you think that this new CEO stepping in is a good thing? Mr. Connor?
No, because the moment that she would have probably taken over, like that midnight, the morning of, I got booted from Twitter for 12 hours. For no good reason. I don't even know what the hell I did. They didn't tell me nothing.
Well, bro,
so no,
you can't type the N-word in multiple tweets. That's gonna happen.
I've done it time and time again, as long as Elon's on there, and I haven't had a problem.
Caught up with you, bro. I'm just saying.
N-word this, N-word that. No.
And you
boots,
posted an
nothing.
entire snuff film the other day. I mean, dude,
I know, right?
What are you?
And that guy deserved it.
And that bukkake porn you sent me was really gross, dude. I don't know.
That
what
was
happened.
between you and me,
going on with
Matt.
you,
That's a step too far.
Actually, Tom, it was you posting that video of you eating pineapple pizza that got you.
That
banned.
well, yeah. Somebody
Elon's
deepfaked
like,
me over
no one wants
Odin.
to see that.
That'll do
Remove
it.
That's it.
No, I really don't know what the hell I got booted for, and no, I don't like this. I don't like the type of things that she's a part of or been a part of, and it scares me. And I agree with the whole Susan Wojcicki 2.0 statement there, basically, and I don't see this going in a good direction. This is going to make the wokes happy, though.
I don't know about. It's
Well,
weird
he probably wants some of those wokes back on the platform. I mean, they're all just more stats, right? So.
Odin, what's interesting about this selection is basically, so she's coming from an entertainment studio, NBC Universal, and she's basically an ad expert. She's someone who basically launched Peacock and figured out an ad revenue model for Peacock that worked. Peacock's like one of the few streaming services that's actually making money, even though it's not one of the biggest ones.
And they're the cheapest.
And they're the cheapest because they're ad supported, which is what she kind of pioneered. And so ever since Elon took over, he's been trying to monetize Twitter to get it to a point where it's actually profitable. And it seems like him bringing this woman on is directly related to that. So what's your take on it? Do you think that this woman's expertise in advertising can translate from NBC Universal to Twitter?
I mean, I think it's possible. Obviously, when it comes to Elon, just like with anybody, I think sometimes there's this, we tend to create this messiah complex, right? Where we think people are there to save us, right? This happens with a lot of politicians, with a lot of, influential people. And I think that there might be some people who fall into that with Elon too, but he is a smart businessman, right? He has made a lot of really good decisions. So I'm going to, again, until it's not a good decision, I'm going to, trust him initially on this one, because I think it's interesting how this is kind of the reverse of something else we've seen, right? Because there was the whole town hall, really a debate earlier this week on CNN, right, with Caitlin Collins, and people started looking up her backstory. And at one point in time, she came across as a very conservative, hard right individual, and now apparently she's not. So I think that people, one, can change over time, for one. Two, we don't know whether what someone is saying publicly as a matter of policy is what they actually believe or think. Now, that actually makes me more doubtful about them, because I want people who are going to, actually, speak and not just, hide behind personality or hide behind just something that's, facade versus anything else. So again, it seems like she's being hired because of what she has been able to do. And so I think if that's going to be the focus, and Elon is still the one in charge, I think that ultimately, if she starts making decisions, that's going to be hurting the platform and the free speech part of it, especially, then she'll be gone very quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Vader 74, Odin makes a good point here. Where basically Elon is bringing her on to kind of run the day-to-day operations of Twitter, like the finances and stuff like that, so that he can step back and kind of do like the meta decision making portion. But there is no more Twitter board. It's not a public company, so she reports directly to Elon, and if he doesn't like something she's doing, he can come out and be like, hey, stop that. So what's your take on this? Do you think it's smart for Elon to bring on a new CEO while he kind of like steps back to take a broader view of the organization?
I mean, yeah, I do kind of think it is something that he should do. I think it's important that he does it. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of this stuff going on, this silly little Twitter app thing. He's got Mars to colonize, right? He's got Teslas to build and a really cool super space truck to make that we can all go buy here in a few years.
37 years.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. It's just, I mean, any of us probably would do the same thing, right? And it's not like he's not going to not be there. He's going to give her a direction, say, this is where I want the company to go, and this is what you need to do. And if things don't go the way he wants, then he always has that option to get rid of her. He can do that now. It's his company.
Yeah, he's in charge.
The buck stops with him, regardless. So, it is what it is. It's not. There's no board anymore, like you said, and I think that in the end is what will, if Twitter is going to survive, that's what's going to make it survive, is he's going to be able to steer the ship the way he wants it. And if somebody's not towing the line, then he can get rid of them and put somebody else in there that maybe can't.
Yep.
So that's
Brian,
the way it is.
Brian, what's your take on this? Because she was a part of the World Economic Forum, which we all know is pretty evil. And also, she's a part of the Hollywood elite. She's a part of the advertising world, and she's also a big proponent of inclusion and diversity in the workplace. So it seems like she's kind of counter to everything that Elon stands for, and yet he hired her to run his company.
Yeah, no. So the thing about the World Economic Forum is there were also people there that there were a lot of people there, not just people that were cheerleaders for it. So we don't know what her purpose there was. Number one. Number two, she's sort of hot. So I got a thing for older chicks. And
Yeah.
jokes aside, though, the hardcore leftists are really showing and some of the right people, honestly, the hardcore left and hardcore right are really showing their insanity right now and their idiocy, because what they're doing is they're going, finally, someone's going to take care of Twitter. Get Elon out. And you're like, what are you talking about? I think some of these people think that CEO is like the person that owns it.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a job. It's a job title. CEOs come and go constantly. So if you're on the right and you think this is a horrible, bad thing, consider this. She's not actually in charge. She's running the day-to-day operations, and he still owns the business. He's still the boss. And if you're on the left and you think it's a good thing, because she's going to make changes that you will agree with, again, he's still in charge. He's still the boss. It's not a public. There's no board. There's not a publicly traded company. He's the boss. If she does something that she doesn't like, he'll just change it. It's just that simple.
Pay out your contract. Move along.
Yeah, move on. Yeah. Or if you don't want to change it, get out of here. Yeah. So it's not a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a thing that needed to happen. Elon Musk is not the day-to-day CEO guy.
No.
He's a visionary. He starts and stops companies. He creates things. He's a startup junkie. He's gonna continue to be him.
I need him to go make the chips they're gonna put in my brain to make.
Whatever it is. Like, he's not the guy who's sitting there like worrying about the hiring of the next marketing of a VP. Like this, that's not what he should be doing. Honestly, get it on track. Get someone in there that can run the day to day and move on, and then step in when if she makes a stupid decision. That's right.
Speaking of moving on, let's get to some super chats real quick. We got Wolverine Snicked, who just became a new YouTube member. Thank you for joining, Wolverine. We appreciate it. Fluffy Panda for $2. Guys, he saved 22% by hiring a chick. Praise Elon.
Oh,
he got her at a discount. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Westfield 90 for $4.99. Elon plays 4D chess, so I trust him. He hasn't disappointed yet. After CEO tweet, he said no shadow banning on Twitter. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Speaking of someone who knows what they're doing, let's talk about Grace Randolph and her take on The Little Mermaid. Yes. So, guys, we have another bad take from Grace Randolph, surprisingly, and it has to do with the new Little Mermaid movie from Disney. And basically,
I propose the next time we talk about her is when she's right, so we never have to talk about her again.
So what's funny is basically she's saying, like, if you don't like the new Little Mermaid, you're a racist, essentially. And it's kind of funny because she's like, obviously this movie takes place in the Caribbean. It wouldn't make sense to cast a white Ariel. But it's like, no, they cast a black actress and then set it in the Caribbean to justify making her black, as opposed to Europe, which is where the actual source material takes place. So she completely kind of misses the point here. And she's trying to justify yet another bad take by saying, like, hey, if you don't like it, you got problems
Matt,
of your own.
Matt, even more so, mermaids aren't real.
Yeah, they're not real.
So her point is even dumber because she's having you have to think about, well, it makes sense because this is where they are in the ocean. It's like,
Now,
Yes, with these creatures that don't actually exist.
hold
Okay,
on a
now,
second.
now explain her
listen,
Mexican father and her white thing.
I'm really confused right now because I can literally go 3 miles from my house and see real mermaids every Wednesday through Sunday at 11, 12, 1, and 3 p.m. in this giant fish tank at the casino. They're not real? I'm really upset right now.
They look
they're
real,
not real,
but they're
bro.
not.
I'm sorry.
They're not real. Yeah.
So I want to read this this quote of hers. So she said, so again, there is nothing to hate about this movie. You'd have to work at hating it. But unfortunately, we know that some people will. But it's engineered to be a crowd pleaser, and I think it is. Matt Vader, you love Grace Randolph. What's your take on her take about?
Well, I
Little
can't
Mermaid?
go watch this movie because it wasn't made for me. So I don't I don't know if I'm allowed to comment on it. And I really don't have a comment on the movie because I haven't seen it and I don't like to comment on movies I haven't seen. But Grace Randolph is a psycho and I don't like her. And I think the way she does her reviews and makes her comments about how if we don't like something, then we're the problem. No, that's not how it works. She's just a stupid bitch and I don't like her. It's really easy. It's really easy. She's like the worst critic out there on YouTube, and I'm really upset that people actually follow her stupidness on.
They follow and
it is what it is. There's nothing
Tom,
to trust. She's just a social justice warrior out there pretending to be a movie critic.
Hey, we love SJWs here. Salty Justice
This
Warriors.
is true. Those are
Tom-
salty justice warriors.
Yeah,
not
Salty
social.
Justice Warriors. Tom, for the people out there who might not be familiar with Grace Randolph, can you kind of give us a breakdown of who she is and why she's so terrible?
Honestly, I don't know that much about her. All I know about her is that I think she worked in the marketing department at Marvel for like 4 months or some shit like that. So she has a few connections that she thinks are worth a shit, but they're not. I basically, what else is there to say about her? She's been this internet commentator who, yeah, we give her credit for being one of the, front runners of this whole thing. But at this point, I don't even understand why people listen to her. She's been dunked on by James Gunn and God knows how many celebrities over the years on how bad her takes and her reporting is. And when it comes to this Little Mermaid business, I mean, with Matt, I don't know how old you are offhand, Matt. I know we've talked about it before, but I think you're a little bit older than me to where I can say that this movie technically is made for me. And what I mean by that this was the last Disney movie that came out before I was a teenager. So this was my last Disney movie. In that respect, it is made for me, and I'm not on board with this business. But that being said, I know at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. This movie is going to appeal to 4 to 12-year-old girls at the end of the day. That's technically who they're aiming it towards.
You mean like the first movie was?
Well, no, I don't know. I mean, Disney movies in the past generally were not so demographically driven, right? Like, I mean, sure, The Little Mermaid, you could argue could be perceived as a girls movie, but I don't feel like it was marketed that way.
It was
And
a
I
movie.
didn't feel out of place going to see it in the theater. In fact, I loved the soundtrack and stuff like that. So, I mean, just because this was what the argument we always make when people are like, "Oh, you just got a problem because it's a woman." It's like, no, actually, my favorite '80s Disney movie is The Little Mermaid, and the hero in the story is a girl. So I don't that doesn't compute with me, right?
Yeah.
So in Grace's defense, I do want to say that, to be fair, Grace wasn't the
I
only
know.
person who doubted Mario would hit him.
That may be, but her take on that movie was horrible. In fact, it was like,
it was pretty bad.
tell me you have lived under a rock without telling me you've lived under a rock for the last 30 years, because I don't care who you are, even if you've never picked up a Mario game before, how do you not understand some of these things?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
And her
it's nuts.
furry statement and all that kind of business is just way off the cuff.
Yeah, she
But
was
at the end of the
criticizing-
day, my definition of Grace Randolph is this. I think this is the best definition of her. She is every bad trait of every ex you've ever had in your life in one person.
Brian, I want to go to you because you are our DC
You're
universe.
gonna highlight that
expert.
comment and then not come directly to me. How dare
I'm going to get to you. I'm going to get to you. But Brian, James Gunn, who's now the official head of the DC universe, has specifically targeted Grace Randolph for her bad takes, basically saying that she just makes stuff up and
the best.
spreads lies. And back like years ago, when I called her out on her, inside information on Star Wars and Kathleen Kennedy against Bob Iger, I basically said that, like, hey, you're framing your news story in a way where basically you're passing your speculation off as actual, like, a scoop, as an insider scoop,
Right?
And that's wrong. And then she immediately banned me on Twitter, like blocked me from seeing her stuff. So what's your take on this? Do you think that Grace Randolph is basically just a snake oil salesman?
Yeah, I mean, so she also sort of toes her company line, right? And she's clearly an extreme leftist, and she wants to paint this as no big deal. It's a great movie. You should go watch it. The people that are upset about this aren't upset because the actress is black. Now, this is very, very important. I'm not mad about Little Mermaid because the actress is black. I don't care what color a character or an actor is. I care about the agenda. And there's clearly an agenda. What bothers me is that they continually feel the need to push this sort of, I gotta say, Afrocentric sort of agenda. They're doing the same thing with Cleopatra. The entire country of Egypt is like, ban Netflix. The Woman King, it's we've talked about it before, revisionist history.
Yep.
I don't understand why it's necessary. How many redheaded characters in DC have now been replaced? Right? It's the weirdest thing. Why are we revising history? And not that it matters. I mean, you're right. It's a fake character, Odin. The fact is that there's an agenda. There's like a hidden sort of undercover agenda. For whatever reason, and then when you call it out and say, hey, this is not right, they go, you're a racist! All right, well, I guess I'm not going to watch the movie. The soundtrack does look good, and to be honest, the person playing Little Mermaid, Halle Berry, is that her name, right? Oh my God, she's so hot. To me, I think she's super hot. So, but it's not about that. It's really about the agenda, and I'm really over the agenda. And yeah, My Robot's right. They're literally, they are losing their minds right now in Egypt over Cleopatra. And why isn't that news? Imagine if Netflix took, I don't know, Malcolm X and made a Malcolm X movie and made it a white guy. Right? The media would be talking about it nonstop, especially if there was an entire country, trying to ban Netflix and writing over it. No. But not here. We just ignore it.
Yeah, Odin. In Grace Randolph's review, she talked about why the prince that Ariel is lusting after isn't also black, considering the location in the Caribbean. And then she says, like, oh, it's because it's an allegory for interracial romance and all this other stuff. Just further showcasing that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Is she the movie critic equivalent of Pineapple?
Yes, not just pineapple, but pineapple on pizza specifically. Yeah, because what's interesting to me is that, especially with her prediction on that film, she got to, oh, it's not going to make $1 billion after she had seen it, right? She didn't even really base it off of any historical reference or previous trends or anything like that, right? Because even though I was completely wrong, and I've admitted that much, I was way off in the words of Dumb and Dumber. I still, I was never, doing that as far as before seeing the movie. Once I saw the movie, I was just like, okay. And then every single day, once money started coming in, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's no way this film's not gonna hit it. But also the whole thing about The Little Mermaid specifically that drives me crazy is, even for people who are being critical of it because of the race swapping, I'm like, race swapping should be like the last thing you talk about. All right, let's talk about the CGI first, because that to me is the worst part of everything about the movie, right? Well, one, the fact that they're remaking it, because there's no need for a remake of this movie. It's a classic and people still love the original. But the fact that they are remaking it, and then the CG, I just, every time I see that CGI for Sebastian,
Oh my God, it's nightmare fuel.
I'm
the
just
voice
like,
is
what?
almost worse than the CG, but
Yeah. And it's just like, it's like, again, as you mentioned, the voice actually isn't terrible. She does a fine job singing. Like, there's all those other things, but yeah, she's ridiculous.
All right, guys, real quick, we got a super chat from Dark Pegasus 87 for $2. DC has a dyslexic caster. They're called gingers.
Oh, no.
Man, that went right over my head. I don't get it.
No, you don't want to get it. I got
Okay.
it. No.
All right. I'm
No.
being. I feel like I'm good.
Dyslexic, Matt. Look at it backwards. Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Razorfist was here in spirit for the entire stream. We really appreciate him sending his energy our way.
Ghosted
wherever
us.
he is. Yes. He ghosted us, exactly.
Ghosted us hard.
So for those of you who showed up here hoping to get Razorfist takes on stuff, I apologize. But hopefully he will see fit to grace us with his presence in the future. But I want to thank
he'll
our
grace
great
Randolph us.
Yeah, he'll grace Randolph us. I don't think he'll accuse us of being racist or anything like that. But
Grace just blocks everything we do anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So basically, I do want to thank the fantastic panel that did show up today. Tom Connors, thank you for coming in. Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Not much else to say on the subject matter at hand, but you can find me on the interwebs, my usual hangouts, Midnight's Edge After Dark, and wherever action figures are sold.
You're super high energy today, Tom.
Well, usually this is my day off, but yeah.
Yeah. And to the Pineapple Lord himself, OMB Reviews, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Picking up with what Tom said, I wasn't even supposed to be at work today. Anyways, you can find me at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitter.
Odin, I hate to interrupt, but Mr. Fist has arrived.
Are you kidding me?
I am so sorry, you guys. Last night during last night during my stream, we were kicked off at random. Turns out that was a prelude to me losing internet all morning.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Yeah, I just got it back about 15 minutes ago, but hopefully it holds. So, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, man. We were having a good time without you, but we're so glad that you're here.
Well, it's good to know. Thank you.
They drugged me in here.
Yeah, I apologize.
Oh man.
Now, is it really Razorfist, or is that just the AI? I mean, Brian showed us earlier that these AI
I don't know.
It's a construct. I apologize.
Well, I know that Tom and Odin have to get going, but if you guys are cool with it, I'd like to hang out with Razor for a little while and get his take on some of the stuff.
We see who you really care about, Matt.
No, we're not cool with it at all. Totally not cool with it. We are going to hold it against you. And
you guys are welcome to stay if you want.
well,
I actually do have to go because my
minutes.
son just woke up. So,
Right.
Anyway, y'all have a good one, everybody.
Later, bro.
All right.
I'll hang for a few more minutes, but yes.
All right.
Yes, sir. Sweet.
So
Always good to
Razor,
hang with Tom.
Yes, Razor. Thank you for
It's good seeing you again.
foremost for coming on the stream. Appreciate it. So we talked about a lot of stuff today, but I wanted to get your take on this. First of all, great epic rant video that you dropped this morning about the Twitter stuff. But for our first topic, we talked about Disney and basically like how terrible they're doing financially. What's your take on this? Why do you think that Disney is doing so poorly right now?
I mean, if you're talking about Disney Plus, would have to be a linchpin of that, and I think we're all keen to the fact that the streaming thing is definitely in sort of it's heading into that phase where we're clearly done with the everyone has a streaming service phase. Like I think everyone's pretty much over that. Like we're to a point where we're arcing back around to where it's just basically going to be cable with a different delivery mechanism, internet, right? Everything's going to be bundled into one service. We've just changed how we receive it. Although really we didn't change how we receive it, because how are we getting our internet? Through fucking cable and through a cable company, right? Yep. So I think that's as much as anything else. I think they banked way too hard on Disney Plus at the wrong time. When they launched Disney Plus, I scratched my head. It was like, you're launching now? right? Like we're already kind of going to head in this other direction. Netflix was already losing subscribers. By the way, why would you want to be the next Netflix when Netflix is not doing well? This was a failed prospect to begin with. And then you have the problem of what if they built their brand on the last several years? Hell, what is the thing after years and years of them being in danger of near bankruptcy? I mean, the early 2000s, people forget Disney were in dire financial peril. What pulled them out of that was the advent of the superhero film. And superhero films, as I've said many times, have entered their fat Elvis phase. And we're now headed down the other side of the mountain there. So you combine those two things, what else do they have? They have the parks, and we can see how well that's going with their battle with DeSantis. Dude, on every front, they're getting donged. And that, to me, is what's going on. That, in addition to poisoning their public image and brand with being avowedly ideological and all these other things. I mean, that also will poison the well a fair amount. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's really like a multi-front campaign where they're just shitting their own pants. Like that's really what's going on.
Well, we know that basically their parks division on the European side, not the domestic side, has been saving their butts. But it looks like basically they're bleeding subscribers. A lot of their subscriptions are based off of like special deals that they made, and so like they're actually like in the red in terms of like tracking people on there. But I think the biggest thing is simply that they're not making quality content, and people can no longer trust Disney with their kids. They have to like screen this stuff, and so people are just moving away to find like a different alternative to Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have so many options, especially in terms of streaming, and especially when the superhero thing has been going on so long, it's really just reaching its natural nadir anyways. When you have another option, you're obviously going to go with it, especially when someone is off-putting ideologically, as Disney is for many, many people. Look, Disney did not make all their money appealing to people on the coasts, right? This is not what Bambi was made for. This is not what the Jungle Book was made. This was made for middle America. This was made for mom and pop. This is made for the people who go to church on Easter Sunday. And this is not the Disney of today.
So, Razor, I wanted to get your take on Tucker Carlson moving his show to Twitter. Now, obviously, like when he had kind of put out these two videos, first addressing his firing from Fox News and then saying that he had reached a deal with Twitter to basically do a show on there. The numbers on his views were like crazy, like 42 million. But we know that Twitter counts views in like 2-second increments. So if you watch 2 seconds of a video while you're scrolling through your feed, that counts as a view. So some of this stuff is a little bit off. But the value proposition of Twitter has always been microblogging. It's like the people on Twitter are readers. They go on there to read stuff. They don't go on there to watch long form video. Do you think that that this pivot that Elon is looking to make, especially with people like Tucker Carlson coming to the platform, do you think it's actually going to stick, or is this basically Twitter shooting itself in the foot?
No, I don't think they're shooting themselves in the foot at all. I think they're expanding. What's interesting is I think Elon Musk was making a little bit of noise about acquiring YouTube for a minute there. Please God, Elon, do it. No, but I think
do it.
I think he decided to take a different approach to the problem. I think he was like, wait a minute, I've already got the infrastructure for this. Like, we can already stream video. We've already got, what the fuck? Why don't we just try it on our own platform?
Yeah.
And this was just a really well-timed, happy accident. At the same time, a brilliant bit of gambit by fucking Fox management. Hey, Tucker, if you don't fall in line ideologically, your punishment is that you go have your own podcast where you don't share any of your revenue with us and make millions of fucking dollars. Okay, pal?
And
all
still
right,
get paid by us.
and we still pay off the rest of your contract via con Dios, dipshit. Like, what the fuck?
Brilliant.
Who
Brilliant
crunched that mental calculus?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that there's anything to the rumors that that him getting fired was part of the Dominion settlement?
I'm sure the I don't know if it was an actual part of the settlement. I don't think it needed to be for Rupert Murdoch to want to fire him out of spite.
Guys,
the other rumor,
they're owned by the same company, though. BlackRock owns part of Fox, and they own part of Dominion. I mean, how much money are they really spending?
Well, and Dominion, I believe, didn't they just buy in relatively recently, too, around the time of the settlement or shortly thereafter, almost as a condition of the settlement or as a conciliatory gesture? Yeah, so it could be. I'm not discounting the possibility. I'm just forwarding the fact that I don't think it necessarily has to be. There's also Victor Davis Hanson was talking about how the big rumor is that they literally, it could actually be this petty, and Rupert Murdoch has done shit like this, that Tucker Carlson and Rupert Murdoch and his fiance went out to dinner together, and his fiance, who is like 90 years his junior, was like, she was apparently outed over the course of that dinner as a massive Tucker Carlson fan. And she was gushing. The dew point in the room rised like 3 points. And she was suddenly revealed as a creationist and a Christian. And Rupert Murdoch, the whole dinner, was super quiet and stoic and whatever. And after the dinner, Tucker Carlson gets fired and the engagement with his fiance is off. Which
That's
is both
awesome.
those things are true, by the way, and the dinner did occur. So this is so that's the other possibility. It could literally be a personal issue that is that fucking petty. And folks, Rupert Murdoch has done this shit before.
Yeah.
Yeah, the HBO show Succession will give you a good idea of how that Rupert Murdoch thing works. Tom Connors, I know that you got to get going. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. Anything you want to say to Razor before you head out?
Oh, no. Well, I love Razorfist, of course. Check out his channel and all the stuff that he does. And I did forget one thing earlier. We are doing A-rated B movies and B-rated A movies is returning tonight, 5 p.m. Central Time.
Awesome.
We're talking Superman 3. So hopefully we'll see some of you folks there. Yeah. Well, Script Doctor and I are going to make an argument for this film. You'll have to just find out. And Clobbering Times is joining us too.
It better be an argument.
Oh, it's a good argument, all right. But part of it's nostalgia, of course. But
a wonderful film, I might say.
Yeah, it has its moments. It's overbashed and underrated, we think. So we'll get to it today. So all right, take care, gentlemen.
See you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a good
All
one.
right, real quick, we got some super chats. One from No Money G for $10. Great show, guys. Thumbs up. It's an even better show now that Mr. Fist is here, so we appreciate him showing up. JT Gunn, Late Night with Cap for $2. Razor Fist sounds like Mr. Reagan.
Oh, no.
Well.
No.
He sounds much better than Mr. Reagan.
All I'm saying is I've never seen him in the same room.
This is true.
This is true. Dark Pegasus 87 for $2. It's important to keep the G's segregated.
Oh God. Oh God.
That's a reference to a previous super chat, Razor, in case you were wondering.
Too much.
No
Too
idea.
much, guys.
Yeah. So I wanted to get your take on this, Razor. Elon Musk has chosen a new Twitter CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he's finally keeping his promise to step down and kind of be like the overseer of Twitter. But this new CEO, basically, her name is Linda.
Is a steaming dog shit fire. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to get your take on her and if you think that this is a smart move by Elon to bring her on board to run Twitter.
Yeah, I don't think smart even enters into the calculation there. I said this a little bit on the stream that I had last night, but Elon Musk has been pressed on this CEO question a number of times by a number of people. And there's a screenshot of a conversation he has with just a random Twitter user right around the time that he put up that poll saying, should I step down as CEO and blah, blah, blah. And I think it may have been in that thread where he was replying to someone and someone was like, so who's going to be the CEO? What in the fuck, where are you going to find this fucking CEO? And Elon's reply was something to the effect of, I've been looking for a CEO this entire time. The problem is all the candidates are shit. They're all the entire pool of prospective CEOs for Twitter is utterly, unremittingly terrible. So I honestly think that's the only reason that this chick is in this position. I think it's the reason she is so awful, because everyone's awful. I think she's, believe it or not, as bad as she is, she's probably the lesser of about 2,000 evils.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
And I don't think people realize how bad the pool of candidates among big tech CEOs is. They're all going to be shrieking, shrill ideologues. They're all going to be. And Elon Musk
all came from modern universities where they just preach that crap nonstop.
Yeah. I really think that's all it is. I don't think he's head over heels for this bitch. I think he's holding his nose and literally he's pushing this button like he's holding a bag of turds. That's kind of what's going on.
Her expertise is in advertising. I think he's bringing her on just to try to get Twitter profitable while he kind of focuses on the bigger picture. But stuff has been coming out about her with her involvement with the World Economic Forum. And I believe there was a video of her talking about, ESG and diversity and inclusion. She's like a big supporter of that. Do you think that, this is going to be a net negative for Twitter?
I mean, it kind of depends on how Elon decides to run it. The acquisition of Twitter for Elon was, there was an element of this platform is going to shit. Someone has to do, there was an element, I think, in the back of his brain of, I'm going to save this platform. But I also think in terms of his actual corporate formulation, he has this large concept of this all-encompassing social media network that he wants to build. And acquiring Twitter, actually, believe it or not, as much as he overpaid for it, saves him billions of dollars in constructing that and in establishing it as a brand and such. Like, he would have had a much higher uphill climb in establishing that if he hadn't acquired Twitter. So I don't see him. The reason I mention that is I don't see him taking that far a back seat, because this is really his baby, maybe even more than like Tesla and shit. It's something that he's wanted to do for a really, really long time, from what I understand. So I think I don't see him taking a very laissez-faire approach. I almost think this woman is, if she's doing anything, is going to be kind of advertising. Look, if we see shadow bans and shit, which, by the way, shadow bans are still around. People are like, oh, they're going to come back. It's like, when did they leave? They're still around all the time. You see it all the time.
Yeah, now they're called quarantine bans, where they just sort of quarantine.
Exactly.
Space, right?
People are still getting banned over bullshit. I mean, granted, any social media network with bad moderation, that kind of shit's going to happen, even for non-ideological reasons. But I don't see him stepping back that far. I just don't think Elon has it in him unless he sells it. I really, really don't.
Right.
So I think this is almost ceremonial for this chick.
Razorfist, do you remember that tweet he made where he said, save Twitter, save the world? And then 3 months later, he bought Twitter?
Right? That's kind of what I'm referring to when I say there was sort of he was putting his cape on and swooping in to save the day a little bit, because he had the means to do it.
Right.
I don't think it's the entire reason, though. There's also a self-serving side where he wants to use this as a linchpin for his mass social media network that he's going to build.
The X app.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we kind of joked earlier that Yakarino is kind of like Susan Wojcicki light. Do you think? What do you think of the prospects of Twitter transitioning into like a long-form video platform that could actually compete with YouTube in terms of offering people monetization for their content?
You would have to do remarkably little to beat YouTube at their own game right now. They've been fumbling for so long and so hard.
So true.
Honestly. So I don't think YouTube realized the amount of peril they're actually in. They have an already established brand that people already go to. All Elon has to do, all Twitter has to do, is just not be invasive with this long-form video content. Make it voluntary. Just make it a separate tab on your fucking Twitter and feature it prominently. And keep it out of our way for the most part, as long as it doesn't turn into a like what Instagram did, where they kept fucking up their design. As long as that doesn't happen.
Stories. What's the difference? I don't even know.
Exactly. As long as they don't fuck it up like how Instagram did with their design or Facebook did and such, you'd be surprised. Remember for a minute there where Facebook was outperforming YouTube streaming and even some Twitch streaming, and then they fucked it all up?
For a small period, that was the case, yeah.
Exactly. Look at what happened when you had an established brand that just didn't shit the bed for a little while. If Twitter plays this correctly, it would not be hard to beat YouTube, actually, because they've been fucking up for so long, so habitually.
What do you think YouTube's been fucking up?
I mean, what haven't they been fucking up? I've been covering it fairly exhaustively. The preferential moderation, the complete lack of moderation in some cases.
Dude, if I see another Jimmy Kimmel clip at the end of a video, I'm going to lose my mind. I have now blocked that account. I have complained. I hate Jimmy Kimmel. I don't want to see a Jimmy Kimmel clip. But every time I'm watching a video, the second I turn around, it auto plays Jimmy effing Kimmel.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do about it.
Channel strikes for 3 seconds of Japanese heavy metal on our stream. That's, you know.
Oh, dude, the fucking, oh my God, the way they've been handling copyright, which is complete abuse. The way that they've been handling copyright is, and this is a lovely little bit that a lot of people don't even realize who have been complaining about copyright on YouTube. If you get copyright claimed, YouTube actually have a sweetheart deal with many of the record companies. So they actually make more money if music in your video is claimed. They get a better ad split with the record company if they have to share the revenue with the record company than if they share it with you, because you get a better ad split as a creator on YouTube. For how much longer that'll be, especially if you're part of a network. Like I'm part of a network, you know, a lot of people are. You're getting a really good ad split, and they really want to copyright claim you. It's one of the reasons I don't do Metal Mythos that much anymore, because it's a complete headache editing around everything. But they've been doing that kind of shit for the longest time, and of course the end result is there's lots of creative genres that were popping up, and they're not really happening anymore. Hell, when I did Metal Mythos, very shortly thereafter, there was a whole field of clone channels that popped up that were all doing Metal Mythos. And it was like, that doesn't happen anymore because everyone gets hit with copyright in 5 seconds and they can't do it. This is just one example of a bunch of different genres that popped up. You can't do, I mean, what the fuck is fair use anymore? They don't even give a fuck. And the moderator of whether or not you are using fair use is the people who are making the copyright claim to begin with. They're the moderator. They get to decide if it's a copyright claim.
And they can not even be the rights holders. They can be some random person.
Oh yeah, happens all the time. You get phony companies that just claim everything, and it happens, dude. I've had to deal with it constantly. Some
dude in Yugoslavia claiming your video.
Yeah, his Gmail is like warnerbrothers@gmail.com. And you're like,
Razor, I think the biggest value proposition that Twitter has in terms of being a video hosting platform is that YouTube basically restricts what you are and aren't able to say. Like if you mention anything about vaccines or politics that goes counter to the narrative or whatever, they will shut down your channel.
That's another thing in correlation with copyright or content. Sorry. The big headache with copyright is even if you edit around it, if it detects it, even if you're not demonetized or whatever, you're de-recommended. Your video, if I get nicked for any bit of copyright, like if I use an ending song, and this happens all the time, I'll have one video that doesn't have copyrighted music in it, gets the normal number of almost 300K views, whatever the fuck it is, and then I'll make a video the next time, maybe about an even more popular topic, and the people who see it fucking love it and share it all over the place, but it gets no traction on YouTube because it's not recommended, and it gets like 1/9 the viewership because no one's seeing it. It's not sent to people's subscriber feeds. People don't realize that if you get copyright claimed, you don't get sent to subscriber feeds.
Yes, Razorfist. One of my channels has 100,000 subs, and we actually met with our quote unquote rep, and we're like, hey, how do we deal with these copyright copy claim issues before we go public? He goes, oh, it doesn't matter if it's legit. You can just fight the claim and you'll get the money. I'm like, no, but that's not the problem. The problem is if we go live with a yellow check mark, I 250 videos now, it's 100%, like a 10% serving at most.
Yeah,
it's
maybe
wild
if you're lucky. It's suppression, 100%, and they do the same thing for controversial content. If you don't even put Trump in your title, mention Trump in your video a few times and see what happens. It detects what you're saying in the video because it has to subtitle it anyways automatically. And, if you're mentioning any controversial topics, if you mention bad words, whatever, it will absolutely ding you, and you will be I mean, I hear it all the time. And then the other big thing that they do, which has been happening to me and many other channels for a long time, is you get a report at the end of the month of how many subscribers you gained and lost, right?
Yep.
I have never been in the negative ever. We're always gaining thousands and thousands of subscribers. And I mean, I don't think the number of subscribers I lose in a given month, even on a controversial month, is more than double digits.
Right.
And yet you keep spinning your wheels and your channel doesn't grow because they periodically cull your subscribers and they don't put it in your report. They don't tell you that they're removing those subscribers.
Yep.
And so consequently, there hasn't been a day that I've woken up in the last fucking 5-6 years where I don't wake up to a shitload of comments on the channel from people saying, I was unsubscribed from you. What the fuck happened? I was unsubscribed. What the shit? I'm glad that I noticed and blah. And it's like, if those dozens of people noticed, how many hundreds of people are being culled and they're not noticing?
Right.
That's what they've been doing. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, was interviewed years ago by CNBC, I think, and said, we're not censoring people. We're not censoring anyone. We're just going to keep you in your own little bubble. And people just aren't going to be able to see you. That's all that is. We're not deplatforming anyone. And dude, that's the exact strategy they have employed with anyone they construe to be guilty of wrongthink for many, many years.
That's true. Yeah.
Twitter can win just by not doing that.
Yeah,
that's true.
So what do you think Twitter can do to kind of lure creators over to their platform in order to compete with YouTube?
Honestly, if they just don't do the things that I described, they're naturally going to accrue an audience. Especially if it's, because here's the thing, if you're not allowing controversial issues on your platform, guess what? As Jerry Springer learned years ago, as the WWF learned in the late 90s in the Attitude Era, controversy creates cash. People like to hear and watch content relating to controversy. It draws viewers and interest. And if your platform is so anathema from anything that might be construed as controversial, all someone has to do is come along and start talking about it and push your shit in. Hell, I mentioned the WWF in the Attitude Era. They were getting their butts kicked by another company, WCW. And WCW had gotten a little bit edgy, but not all the way. They got edgy, but up to a point. Then they started moderating themselves. And WWF was like, oh, so all we have to do is not moderate ourselves and we win? Fuck, okay, let's do that. And so for the next year, they proceeded to slowly turn the ship around. And ultimately, within a 2-year period, they were steamrolling the competition. That's all Twitter has to do.
Next thing you know, DX is outside the stadium on a Jeep with a giant machine gun on it.
Right, wait, we're the fucking howitzer. Absolutely. So that's... you'd be surprised how simple it would be, especially when you're already a platform with the kind of name recognition and the kind of daily users as Twitter.
So we need to go Attitude Era with the channel. That's what we need to do.
Well, see, I always was, so I don't need to change anything.
Yeah, and they already have kind of like a live stream system in place with Twitter Spaces and stuff like that. If they just transition that video,
they still have the Vines that they had Vines, like they have the short
and Periscope.
Yeah, they got everything they need to create whatever they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
So real quick, Razorfist, we had a super chat at the beginning of the show from the Joker's Voice for $5. He says, hail S&P, yet another amazing guest. To you, Razorfist, I tip my hat. Can we get a fuck you, I was right, please? Hashtag keep talking.
Fuck you, I was right. I am so sorry for being so late. But, man, I don't know. I'm just hoping my internet holds here. So.
And then we got a $5 super chat from Dash Attack VTuber English. Beware of Afterlife Games. He gave me a copyright strike for reacting to his Final Fantasy 16 as racist video, and others. No way to fight it without doxing. Wow. Yeah, it's a real problem. But Razorfist, since we got you on the show, you know, you are one of the most passionate Daredevil fans I think I know.
Oh, yeah.
Out of anyone on the internet, period. And we got this story about Daredevil Born Again getting shut down by writers' strikers out in New York. And what's interesting about Daredevil Born Again is that it's an 18-episode season, but I think the episodes are only like half hours, so it's basically like a 9-hour Netflix season. I want to get your take.
They're going a half hour with this show.
I'm pretty sure that's the plan, because all of the Marvel
sounds
TV
like
shows.
The worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas.
Pretty bad.
What a half-hour Daredevil drama? The fuck? Anybody watch Daredevil on Netflix?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Like some of the most decompressed storylines, some of the most decompressed writing you'll ever see in your life. That was one of the reasons that show worked, was they were not afraid to pause and have silence for a moment. And how are you going to have one of those moments with fucking Matt Murdock and the preacher guy, the Reverend, where they're talking about the nature of evil and life and death and shit? Like, how are you even going to do that in a half hour? Anyway, sorry, I got distracted.
No.
Please finish your question.
Well, my question is, like, what do you know about Daredevil Born Again? What's your take on it overall?
Well, I just learned something. I didn't know about the 30 minutes thing. I got to be honest, I've been avoiding all news about Daredevil Afterbirth. Everything that I hear is just detritus. It's worse news and worse news. Hey, Foggy's not going to be there. Hey, Karen's not. Oh, really? The fucking emotional core of the entire show is not going to be there? Nice. Sweet. But at least we have Vincent D'Onofrio, who just fucking embarrassed himself along with Daredevil on fucking She-Hulk in a goddamn Hawaiian shirt. Let's make that happen. I just don't fucking... I think Disney is going to parade this character around like a fucking skin suit. Look, Daredevil Netflix was such a confluence of brilliant creators who also happen to be passionate about Daredevil, all sort of converging. Jeff Loeb has written amazing Daredevil comics, and now he was in charge of a Daredevil show. Drew Goddard already had a background and happened to love the shit out of the Daredevil comics. The primary writers was the husband and wife team. It was Christos Gage had been the writer on the show. This is a comic writer. He wrote Daredevil Redemption, one of the better kind of standalone Daredevil graphic novels, a takeoff on the West Memphis 3 court case, actually. Really, really good. Highly recommend it. But he wound up writing the fucking show, right? He writes one of the best graphic novels, and then he gets to write the show. All those people fucking gone. All those people are gone. None of them are working on it. This show is not about the actors. It's great that Charlie Cox has work. I'm happy for him. He got fucked when Daredevil got canceled. His whole family, Daredevil was a family business for him. His wife was like the seamstress or makeup artist. She worked behind the scenes, right? So overnight, his whole family didn't have an income. I am over the moon that Charlie Cox, a very good actor, has a gig. It's unfortunate that it has to be this, because a show is good because of who is behind the camera, especially in long form decompressed television like this. You need this is definitely a case of authorial supremacy. And the guys who are running this, oh God, previously did fucking sitcoms and like a generic police procedural on fucking NBC. This is the fucking pedigree of the people we're working with. We went from Drew Goddard to this. So that's more so what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your take on the use of Daredevil in the She-Hulk show and the mustard suit and all that stuff. Like, what do you think that they're doing to this character?
I worry that they're setting up. They're claiming like this Daredevil Born Again has nothing to do with She-Hulk. I call bullshit. I don't think you would have had Charlie Cox come in if that wasn't the case. Granted, they could course correct, But I think the plan was, well, we'll start him out in the yellow suit on She-Hulk, and then we can just start Daredevil with the red suit, and we can make a bunch of snarky Joss Whedon jokes about how he used to wear the yellow suit. Right? I honestly think that's what it didn't go any deeper than that. It was sort of a way to set up the Daredevil show. And to be fair, that was apparently one of the better episodes of She-Hulk, but I mean, that's not a particularly high bar to hurdle. And I think they're going about this all wrong. I don't think from the beginning, I kind of knew everything I needed to know about the approach they were taking with Born Again when Disney and the official Daredevil account, and I think even someone who was working on the show, and I'm blanking on who that was, started name checking the Mark Waid run of Daredevil. They were like, well, Daredevil's not always dark. He's not always dour. He can also be happy-go-lucky and 5 people read his shitty comic. And the only reason it was around for 5 years is because the fucking critics were sucking it off. That's what happened with Daredevil, the Mark Waid run, basically. It was the lowest selling Daredevil run in history. And yet it just stuck around because it was a critical darling. If that's the way they're going with this, and I could see it, given some of the recent Disney stuff, it's DOA. But the writer strike stuff, I mean, this is... Honestly, you could wind up with a better show as a result of this. This gives me a little hope. If they could just bring in someone else to fucking fix this mess, who knows? Maybe they could wind up with a halfway decent Daredevil show.
Yeah, but this is actually going to push back the production quite a bit, I think. These
Darn!
Well, especially considering that they're doing like 18 episodes that they got to shoot. So it's kind of weird. And it is weird that they're bringing in, like, other actors to play different roles, like like you said, the emotional core of the Netflix show is pretty much missing from this.
Well, yeah,
we also
they recast Vanessa Fisk, who is pretty goddamn well established and important for 3 fucking seasons, and now you recast her for no fucking reason. What the fuck? Just silly.
And not to mention Kate Bishop defeated Kingpin pretty soundly. So
yeah.
All it needs is a bow and arrow. Who knew?
Exactly.
But
that was Hawkeye. I was thinking he had been on She-Hulk. No, he embarrassed himself on an entirely different program. Fucking Hawkeye.
This is true. So we talked a little bit about Marvel, but I want to throw it to the panel to talk a little bit about Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy. Which
why?
Vader, I know that all things Star Wars just invoke the gag reflex in you, but this article came out recently about how Kathleen Kennedy was making excuses as to why Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy was not actually moving forward.
He's just so damn popular and good that we just can't.
Yeah, she says that they talk constantly and that he's just super busy with all of his Agatha Christie ripoffs, that he doesn't have time for the most popular franchise on the planet. And like there is something to that in the sense that like Rian Johnson makes more money doing the Knives Out stuff than he ever would.
It's his property, right?
Yeah, because he owns it.
It's his property stolen from someone else, but it's his property.
Yeah, exactly. So and he probably doesn't get half the grief from Star Wars fans, doing mystery movies than he does.
Well, you watch
actually doing Star Wars. What I do watch it because I love mysteries. And they're terrible. They're actually terrible mysteries. But Matt Vader, do you think Rian Johnson's ever going to get his trilogy?
I mean, it's no. I mean, no. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. He's never going to get it. I mean, it's probably there if he wants it, as long as Kathleen Kennedy's still sitting there. But no, I don't think he really honestly has any interest in making it, to be honest. Why would he? I mean, there's just going to be a whole half the fandom's going to go after him the second that they even say anything about it. People like us out there, it's like, and none of us want it. I don't think he wants to make it. I don't think there's a reason for him to make it until maybe someday he gets canceled and needs something to come back with or whatever. But no, it's not. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't want it to happen, at least. I mean, in my brain, that's how I'm going to justify it not ever happening. So we don't want it. He doesn't want it. So why would we ever get it? So
Brian, I think Kathleen Kennedy is on record as loving working with Rian Johnson because he's one of the few directors that she's worked with in the Star Wars era that actually brought something in on time and on budget, and didn't give her any headaches about it. So do you think that there's anything to the idea that if Rian Johnson comes in and he's not forced to use any legacy characters, kind of do his own thing, could he make like a good Star Wars trilogy?
No.
I don't think so, man.
Next. That was
I mean,
easy.
here's the deal. Like I try to be positive. I try to be positive.
Yeah, but a Rian Johnson trilogy would be HIV positive.
Yeah, I mean, like, he was given free reign. Like, here's the deal. People blame him. Like, he is the problem with episode 8. However, Kathleen Kennedy was like, do your own thing. He didn't even see the end of 7 before he produced 8. Like, he did his own thing. Literally, didn't even have to consider the ending of the previous film to make the sequel. And it's really what completely destroyed Star Wars, or at least the very first blow. And no, I don't think he can, man. I don't think he understands Star Wars. I don't think he likes Star Wars, because he was like, instead of making a Star Wars movie, I want to make a World War II movie set in the Star Wars universe. Like, what the fuck is that? It's so weird. Yeah. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense logically, physically, in any way. It don't make sense. And it was just bad. I don't think so.
Yeah, Razor, Kathleen Kennedy is kind of notorious for getting Star Wars projects moving and then canceling them. And she announced this Rian Johnson trilogy like right before The Last Jedi came out because she was so high on the movie, thinking that it was going to be this huge hit. But since then, like, she's really kind of shot herself in the foot constantly with the Rogue Squadron movie, announcing it and canceling it. Famously, Solo coming in and having to reshoot that entire film. Why do you think that she just hasn't put the kibosh on Rian Johnson's trilogy and told everyone that they're moving forward with something new?
Saving face. That's all it is. It's that petty. It's the same reason she hasn't been fired. To be honest, it's people have been predicting since time immemorial that Kathleen Kennedy was going away, and from the very beginning, I've gone on record. You guys can go back and look. I have said you people are fucking fooling yourself. They cannot fire a woman in current year, especially not one who they had celebrated to the moon and back, and who is as connected to as many power brokers in Hollywood as Kathleen fucking Kennedy is. It's not happening. Yeah. Rian Johnson, it's as simple as she cannot admit she fucked up. It makes her look bad. You can see the way that Disney and Lucasfilm have dealt with prior failures. They do not admit them. They simply sweep them under the rug and move on to the next thing. And this is 100%. So when she's asked about Rian Johnson, one of the reasons her excuses are so transparent is because it's one of the rare cases where she doesn't have a next thing to move on to. Right? Normally she could just be like, oh, look at the shiny thing that we're working on over here. But Star Wars is dead outside of Disney Plus, and frankly, it's on life support even there. So there's nothing else to call attention to. This is how it's been for her, right? She cannot admit fault. It makes her brand look bad. Look, she's probably eventually going to get promoted up. That's usually what happens to people who fail as hard in the position that Kathleen Kennedy has been in. They wind up failing upward and being in a position where they can't do any more damage, but they get to say that they were actually promoted rather than fired. And that's probably what's going to occur here. She's probably looking at Rian Johnson much the same way. Oh, he's been promoted to Knives Out. Don't worry about it. It's kind of what's going on. And look, if you're Rian Johnson, he was so autismally mad about the reaction to The Last Jedi. You saw him on social media. He'll still periodically mention it. He's still so deeply, he's a fucking human salt lick about it.
He really is.
And you cannot, I think he's happy to be working on Knives Out, not just because it's making him billions, but also because I don't have to deal with that fucking headache anymore. That's really what it comes down to. If she's selling any other story, she's full of shit.
This is true. What did you think of the announcement that they're doing a new movie with Daisy Ridley as Rey, coming back with basically giving Rey Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order from the books storyline?
they can say whatever they like. I don't know. I actually think that it maybe has a little more to do with the fact that some of the shyness gone out of superheroes a little bit. So Disney is sort of looking at, oh fuck, what do? We didn't get on the video game movie thing fast enough. What do we do? We still have Star Wars. Let's do something with us. I think you're maybe going to see a renewed focus on Star Wars happening pretty soon here, because the Marvel thing is starting to hit its lower ebb. So I think that's honestly all it has to do with. And Daisy Ridley, what the fuck has she been doing? You know what I mean? Like, what's she? This shit.
Well, you have one of the most unpopular Star Wars characters coming back to headline a new movie. And then we also got James Mangold doing The First Jedi, which is basically a sword and sandals biblical epic, according to him. And then we got Dave Filoni doing like a Mandoverse crossover film to kind of tie things up. So there is a lot of Star Wars going forward. What was your take on Mandalorian season 3?
I am still at the end of season 2. Actually, I heard so many bad things about season 3 that I didn't even bother.
You mean Jack Black and Lizzo didn't entice you to watch the season?
No, you know what? When I heard the Death Star had been recast, I wasn't wild to see it. But no, I believe it or not, that wasn't enough of a siren song to woo me to the rocks.
That's crazy. Like the state of Lucasfilm, just in general, like the Willow show that they produced, this upcoming Indiana Jones film, everything that they've done with Star Wars.
Indiana Jones and the hip of titanium.
More like the shoulder blade of titanium, because that was what was broken on Harrison Ford. But like, at what point do you think Disney?
My favorite one was Indiana Jones and the reasonably priced condo of Boca Raton.
That was awesome.
Do you think there's anything that will wake Disney up to the idea that they have a problem at the very top of Lucasfilm with Kathleen Kennedy, and that they need to get someone new in there?
I mean, I honestly think, rather than put it all on Kathleen Kennedy, I think they're concerned that the Lucas brand, the Lucasfilm brand in general, was a bit of a lemon that they acquired. If you look at the track record since they've acquired it, it's like, okay, Force Awakens, and when are we going to follow this up with a proper success? You know, we had Force Awakens, and believe it or not, it wasn't The Last Jedi that started the decline for revenue. It was actually Rogue One. So literally, since Force Awakens, they have not bested the success that they initially found with The Force Awakens. And that goes pretty much cross-brand. It's like Force Awakens, and I guess on the TV front, Mandalorian was a big hit for a minute. And but all of these are kind of losing steam. So I think they're looking at the Lucasfilm acquisition as kind of a shit. What do we do? They're in the position of thinking that they were acquiring a thriving brand, and actually they were sort of inheriting something that they were going to have to do a bunch of repair work on. You know, that I think that's honestly what's going on.
Was the brand just one of those things that was just too entrenched with our generation? I mean, if you look behind me, I've got a wall of Funko Pops and action figures and things over here, but not a single one of them belong to Disney era stuff. It's all original trilogy things. So I'm just kind of wondering if maybe they just, like you said, maybe they bought a lemon. Maybe this new generation of moviegoers had their thing with, Harry Potter or whatever. Not only that, but they weren't interested in Star Wars because they have their own things to go see. So maybe.
Not only that, but where do kids get their taste from? Not completely, but to a degree. When they're really small kids, their parents take them to see Disney movies or whatever, right? Like they do, to a degree, get their taste from their parents. People kind of forget that, right? Like I wasn't allowed to pick my own movies as a fucking kid. You know what I mean? You had to watch Bambi and whatever. You had the old Disney VHSs in the big fucking bubble plastic cases, right? You had those, the ones that open like a book. That was like our entire movie library growing up.
Yeah, dude. If I was able to pick my movie when I was 13, oh my god.
Oh, right. Can you imagine, like, as a parent being like fucking Disney Star Wars. Let's get this train going, right? Imagine how many hair colors that fucking parent has. I honestly, I think it filters down. I think not being popular with previous generations who now have kids is hurting their appeal with kids because the parents aren't exposing the kids to it. They're like, we're not even going to fucking bother.
Right.
I think that actually is a factor.
Definitely. So let's talk about some actual good content for a change. And I want to bring this up because I'm super excited about it. But we've got Razorfist, who basically killed it on his fundraising for his new upcoming graphic novel, Ghost of the Badlands. And basically, like, you raised like close to $250,000 on this Indiegogo, and the link to the Indiegogo is in the description if you guys want to check this out. I believe you can still get in on some of the early access bonuses and stuff like that. But this is kind of like almost like a Batman / Zorro type thing in the Arizona desert. Razorfist, can you tell us a little bit about this graphic novel of yours and what was the inspiration behind it, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, it's I wanted to do a Western. The synopsis has been laying around for a while. I did the character sketch, God, like 2017, long time ago. It was one of those ideas that just sort of jolted me out of bed. And I've been watching a lot of the Clint Eastwood Angel of Death trilogy, stuff like Pale Rider and the High Plains Drifter.
So good.
That sort of stranger rides into town and sets all the wrongs right. You don't even know his name, that kind of thing. And I missed those kind of Westerns. We get a lot of revisionist Westerns. We get a lot of historical Westerns. We get a lot of 1883. And over the next year, I think that's going to be one of the next trends that Hollywood tries to throw at the wall and see if it sticks. They've already greenlit a shitload of big budget Westerns in Hollywood that aren't going to come out till the end of next year and probably into 2024. I actually think this writer's strike may move that timetable up because a lot of those projects are already in the can. Right. So the movies are they're just in the editing process. So this is product they can release now while the writers are on strike. So you might actually see a little bit of an expedited version of this. But the Western is coming back. Right. You can just kind of feel it. Yellowstone, big hit, 1883. And the 1883 guy has now gone on to make a bunch of Western films. And there's been a bunch that have been greenlit. And so like Christian Bale was in one. And Martin Scorsese is making one. It's just across Hollywood. It's a big thing. I'm not seeing, though, this elemental Western. It's called a Gothic Western or a divine retribution Western. A strong biblical hellfire and brimstone undercurrent. And we took the idea of the ghostly protagonist to an even greater extreme, combined it with kind of elements of pulp heroes that I enjoy. Solomon Kane, kind of a Old Testament sort of vengeance and justice sort of character, a little bit of the Shadow with the idea that he's almost got sort of a network of people who are sort of working at his beck and call. He's the greatest mystery in his own story, the eponymous Ghost of the Badlands. And the emotional drive of the story is provided by a gunfighter, former veteran, who falls to banditry after the war and is a fallen creature, completely fallen creature, and has essentially a Paul on the road to Damascus moment where he's confronted with the consequences of his actions, and he it's like he has to cross over to the moment where if he pulls that trigger and kills that child, it's going to be the moment from which he can never return, and he can't do it. And when he lowers his gun, his compatriots raise theirs, and they go full Murphy from RoboCop. And right when he's about to breathe his last, we actually see this in the preview pages on the Indiegogo page. The shadow appears on the horizon, backlit by the moon, and begins dispensing hellfire and brimstone Bible verses. It's the only thing he speaks in, by the way. Appropriate hellfire and brimstone Bible verses. And then raises this funky German automatic pistol, a weapon of the old world, and goes to work. And this is really what's happening is we're following the redemption arc of this man who sort of makes the first good decision in his life in years. And through his eyes, we witness who the ghost is as he sets out to work in his service. So that's kind of the core idea.
This looks badass.
Yeah,
man.
I want to show some of the artwork on this. So these are some variant covers for the comic, but look at the actual like artwork that is involved in this. This looks absolutely amazing. Who's the artist that you got for this?
That is George Alexopoulos, the same guy who illustrated my recent pulp novella, Death Mask.
Cool.
He did a really good job on that, and we were both bitten hard by the Western bug. And so we were like, well, what the fuck? Why don't we just combine forces? So, and I think he's done a bang-up job. He's working away on it as we speak, I believe. Actually, I think there's a new update today, or there will be one this weekend. I've been doing this consistent series of updates talking about the backstory of the Ghost of the Badlands. This is set in a real place, an Old West town, wilder than Tombstone, wilder than Deadwood, that no one talks about, called Canyon Diablo, Arizona. And if you watch the television show Hell on Wheels, the title refers to the town that would follow the railroad as it was going along. And it was very appropriately named Hell on Wheels because it was Gomorrah, right? Prostitution and gambling and fist fights and nightly murders and whatever. That's a Hell on Wheels town. It follows the railroad. Well, Canyon Diablo was a Hell on Wheels town that was following the railroad until they hit Canyon Diablo. And then they had to build a bridge, which took a long time. And it was a massive feat of engineering in the 1880s. And so it's a Hell on Wheels town that stayed put and festered in the middle of the desert and just got dirtier and darker and more corrupt and bloodier. And it got to the point where they swore in a sheriff at 3:00 and buried him by 8. Like they couldn't keep a sheriff in office in the town of Canyon Diablo. Pulp stories inevitably cropped up about this place, about how wild and lawless it was. And some have a note of truth to them. Some are just pure pulp fiction. There's, of course, like any Old West town, you have the people who are furthering the myth and the people who are debunking it. We're doing both. I believe both are equally important. I think we need to... The real history is massively important because I find real Old West history way more interesting than the fiction. But the myth of the Old West is huge. Cowboys and Indians never really happened, but it's an important part of the Old West myth. So we're sort of marrying the two. So that's the background for this of Canyon Diablo. And it also helps that it's named after the devil and it's a big biblical story. So what the fuck?
Well, you've almost raised $250,000 for this thing.
Yeah.
and you've even got stretch goals going up to $500,000.
Yeah, which weren't there, might I add. We had to add those. We didn't think we were going to hit 100K, and then we hit it in like fucking a couple of days.
Yeah, are you surprised at the outpouring of support that you got for this?
Yes, I think we were surprised on two fronts. Like, I didn't know. I think we underestimated how much people wanted comics that aren't describedly woke and ideological, and also that have kind of a aesthetically are not the same as the standard Marvel Drek, right? With the computer colors and the blah, right? And I also think we underestimated how starved the public was for a good Western like this. I think that those two things we sort of underestimated. And interestingly enough, we're kind of right at the head of, like, the wave hasn't even crested for Westerns yet. It's about to crash pretty soon here. It should be interesting when it happens, but I'm really fascinated. As cool as it is that we've raised this much, we're not even really in the heart of the Western wave. I'm curious what's going to happen when it actually releases, if people are actually going to talk about it after that, because that would be more interesting and cool to me. You know what I mean? Because once it's out there and people can see the artwork and have it in their own hands, I think they're going to dig it. And also, you can get a preview if you'd like in Anvil, the Iron Age magazine. Those preview pages and a little bit more are going to be in that. You can have physical copies before we actually go to print.
Cool.
So he's going to have it in Anvil.
That is very cool. The your initial goal was just $50,000. Last week we had Ethan Van Sciver on the show, who's kind of like the godfather of Comicsgate, which is the independent publisher movement for comic books. Did you get any support from the Comicsgate people for this?
We haven't been on with them or anything, but they're great people. And Ethan Van Sciver, I think Ethan's always had kind of an open invite for us. So maybe we'll have to swing by there and talk with them. But I'm always willing to have Ethan on my podcast. I think he's a great fucking dude. We've been on podcasts together a bunch of times. We just haven't done it yet. But yeah, I'm loving what they're doing with the Comicsgate stuff. I've dubbed sort of this era. I don't consider it a movement. I just consider it a name for the era, the Iron Age, because that's kind of what this is. It's sort of just, there's a zeitgeist going on with independent creativity, with sort of grassroots success that already was sort of built, or like a grassroots audience that was sort of built over years, whether using YouTube or social media or whatever you sort of build. There's a lot of people who fit that description, whether it's Eric July or Ethan Van Sciver or whatever. This is clearly something that's happening, and it's not just in comics. I've been doing it in pulps for a while, sort of bringing back a dead format while selling a lot of copies of this kind of funky novella thing, and this is kind of a natural progression from that.
So I wanted to let everyone know in the chat that we've been doing giveaways lately, and we're going to be giving away a $25 soft cover version of Ghost of the Badlands. And in order to basically enter that, you just need to type in the chat, #FuckYouIWasRight. We're going to be doing a giveaway at the end of the stream. So if you want to be entered into that, #FuckYouIWasRight, just in the chat, and you'll be automatically entered. And we're going to do a random drawing when we're ready to wrap this up. Razorfist, thank you so much for coming on today.
I'm so sorry about the tardiness, but there was nothing for it.
It's okay. We appreciate you being here and giving us your insights on all this stuff. One last thing I wanted to ask you about before we head out of here was something that we talked about a little bit earlier on in the show, and that is that everyone's favorite movie critic, Grace Randolph, recently came out and said that if you don't like the Little Mermaid, you're maybe a little bit racist. And this did not go over well on social media. I want to know, what's your take on Grace Randolph in general?
I don't have a take on this, broad. I don't fucking care. I don't care about the Little Mermaid. And if you can't see that if you don't like this movie where we recast a white person as a black person, you are racist. If you don't see this as a prefabbed, baked-in narrative that they were, I mean, this is part of marketing now. This is what this is. It's not even appropriate to call it astroturfed. It is baked into the souffle. They are ready to go with it because it helps them market to certain people that they would like to buy into the movie. What's been happening? Actually, we were just talking about Ethan Van Sciver. He summed this up so brilliantly on Tim Pool not that long ago, where he was saying, the comic industry used to try to sell comics to kids that weren't there, and then for a long time they finally abandoned that. Actually, okay, we kind of need to appeal more to teenagers and adults and whatever. And then suddenly there were these strange women who started appearing, and they thought that we could, hey, look how many women there are in America. If we start appealing to them, then we can sell more comics. And so for the last 20 years, they've been trying to sell to more and more women who aren't there, who don't care. And honestly, I think the same formulation is happening here in Hollywood. I think they think they're going to expand their audience to, people who wouldn't traditionally have seen a Little Mermaid film, which is mostly just little kids of all ages and sexes. They think that they're going to expand it to some kind of, I don't know, some never before discovered woke juvenile audience. I have no fucking clue, but at every turn they've been trying to do this with every project at Disney, whether it's a superhero film or whatever the fuck. WB has done this before, and they're looking for this audience, simply put, that isn't there. It's just not there. And the longer they commit to this, this is really at the heart of this. Opens up a broader discussion about ESG, but like ESG is the giant pool of money that rewards them for doing that, even if they fail.
Yep,
right.
Yep.
It's so to them, the risk reward analysis is pretty simple, but to the audience, over time, you're whittling away that audience. So even if you're getting the ESG money, like those funds, I mean, some of those ESG funds are actually in free fall right now. So it's not, that money is not like an evergreen. This is not a bottomless font. This is not going to happen for much longer. So eventually you have to at least placate your audience. You're starting to see that a little bit with like WB and stuff, but like I've long said, it's not really a get woke, go broke idea. It's really go broke, get woke. It's companies that are in trouble get very woke because they're looking for new audiences. And in the modern day, they've added incentive for that because of the ESG funds. So it's, you know, hey, we can attract mergers with ESG compliant companies if we do this. We can get the ESG money. There's no risk for them, at least not as they see it. But of course, in the longer term, you're eroding that column of support of your core audience. And eventually, the full phrase is go broke, get woke, ultimately croak. Because eventually that's going to happen. It's undeniable and it is unavoidable.
Yeah, and Ethan made a good point, and I hope Matt Vader can expand on this a little bit about the differences between like how boys and girls like play with like toys and consume comics and literature and stuff like that, where like boys will embody the character in their minds as they're playing with it, whereas girls will project themselves on the character. And with the advent of more women in comics and entertainment, you're seeing a lot of these self-inserts come in there, and by and large, traditionally like genres that cater to men, like science fiction, fantasy, like high fantasy, stuff like that. These women are taking it in a direction that the core audience of these genres don't like. And so you're seeing like this kind of like weird dichotomy here where basically all Marvel comics right now are geared towards women who don't tend to read superhero comics, right? And so like the male demographic is being alienated. Vader, you found that really interesting when Ethan was
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple premise, right? I mean, if you want Batman to do cool Batman shit, you have him be written by a dude who likes Batman. If you want Batman to get married and have tea parties with Catwoman, you have a woman be in charge of Batman, right? So I mean, it's pretty simple concept.
Or a homosexual.
Or whatever it is that they want to project. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. And I thought it was very fascinating when Ethan schooled everybody on Timcast about the whole thing. It kind of broke the internet for a second there. I think people are still talking about it a little bit. So it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah, Razor, do you think that that's an issue in entertainment nowadays where you see like women gaining more and more like public power, like positions like CEO, head of production, stuff like that, and they're making these calls counter to the actual audience that watches or consumes the product?
Oh, I think it has more to do. I mean, yes, that's really kind of an affirmative action thing, though. In hiring practices, sort of, they have a checklist. Those checklists came out, by the way, in the 80s and 90s. This is nothing new. They've had those checklists for we have to have X number of black people, we have to have X number of women, for a long, long time. I remember there was a family magazine, Focus on the Family, that released and leaked that list of that checklist that was at actually Disney. That was Disney in the 90s. So this has been going on a long fucking time. But yeah, I think it's that, but it's mostly they look, corporations are risk averse. So if they can do one thing and maybe make money off their audience if they like it, in an age of caustic criticism on the internet, I mean, let's own up to it. That does exist. Sometimes you can make a movie that is pretty good and people still shit on it because they're just not ready for it. That happened all throughout history, though, even before the internet, right? Blade Runner came out, great fucking movie, and bombed. It just didn't do that well until people found it on home video. So you can roll those bones and take that risk, or even if the movie bombs, you get to play the victim. Look at all these bigots who hate our movie, and get all that ESG cash. That is a really easy math problem to fucking sort out in your head if you're a CEO. That is not a difficult decision to make, especially if you're already inclined to be woke yourself politically, which a lot of people in Hollywood are. They all go to the same cocktail parties. They all go to the same universities. They all fuck the same people. This is 100%. That's what this industry is. Dude, there is no incentive whatsoever for them to stop doing this, except if the ESG money dries up, which in many cases it is starting to.
All right, guys, you ready to give away one of Razor's comics? So
Let's do it.
last chance. So we're gonna do the drawing. We'll see who wins.
I hope I win. Go,
I
baby.
hope I win. I want to win.
X Ginger Cat X.
Ginger
Congratulations.
Nice.
Email us at saltynerdpodcast@gmail.com your info so that we can get that comic to you, and we will be signing up to give Razor more money at his, Indiegogo. like he needs our piddly $25.
That'll be coming out. George is already working on it, and he's estimated fall. Something like that will be all the artwork will be done, and he'll start shipping shortly thereafter. So probably around winter. With winter shipping, you want to assume that there's going to be bullshit. So he's saying early next year. It may be sooner, but we're banking on there being some kind of issue with shipping. So we're saying early next year that it'll all be out to everybody.
Right on.
Well, the artwork looks fantastic, and knowing you, Razorfist, you're going to write a hell of a yarn. So, like, I'm probably going to order one for myself. Actually,
Yeah,
I'm
me
looking
too.
forward to it. Real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to Goran Falf or Faith, however you pronounce it. I'm sorry
It's
if I'm
Swedish.
mispronouncing it. Yes.
Yeah, no idea.
But 50 Swedish krones, I believe.
Kroners.
Kroners.
Yep.
Thank you, Goran. We really appreciate it. We see you in our chat every time we go live. So that's fantastic. Razorfist, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I'll put about as much thought into it as Disney did, thinking of Daredevil fucking Afterbirth. But no, I can be bearded over on my fucking channel. You can, of course, hit up the Indiegogo with Ghost of the Badlands if you're so inclined and you're looking for some rootin' and tootin' simultaneously. We will have plenty of that. And it's youtube.com/C, because what the fuck, /the Rageaholic, because that's how that works. And of course, on Twitter, it is Razorfist with a 0. Bitch.
And I will say that your Depths of DS9 series is very fun to watch. And
yeah, we're over on an unauthorized too. We've been doing that, and we actually just got. Today we're going to release a episode where it was myself, Terangel, and Tactical Hobo as a 3-man panel talking about the episode Crossfire, basically a DS9 remake of The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston.
Nice. And you also do a lot of Let's Plays on your channels too. In fact, I think I saw the one Bridge Commander with Star Trek.
Yeah,
it's really good. If you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to check out Razor's channel for that stuff. Fantastic. Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts? What's going on Raw Rant on Monday?
Yeah, great meeting you, by the way, Razorfist. On Raw Rant at 2 o'clock on Monday, Matt will be there. And our special guest is Daniel Davis, a.k.a. Professor Moriarty.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have Daniel Davis, Robert Meyer Burnett, Matt from the Salty Nerd, and a guy named Geekin with, I don't remember exactly. I forgot his name. But the schedule is on Podcast Unleashed, and it's up. It's going to start at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, and Razor Brian runs a very popular Star Trek channel, so you two could probably talk about
sweet.
DS9 for hours on end when he's unfrozen. I think the Shane AI got to him.
Yeah.
Matt Vader 74.
Yeah,
We had a break-in
Monday,
at our.
Oh,
Okay,
real quick.
Okay.
This Saturday, as in next Saturday, on our main channel, the Star Trek one, the big one he was just talking about, our first ever premiere of our Galaxy Quest full-length, hour-and-a-half long Galaxy Quest documentary.
Oh, cool.
Fantastic.
At 9
Looking
a.m.
forward to that.
next Saturday.
That's very
Podcast makes good
very
documentaries.
That's fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. That's going to be really super cool.
So Matt Vader, we had a break-in this last Sunday.
Yes, we did.
Got $9,000 of our equipment stolen, and that put a damper on our content creation schedule. So we don't have a lot of stuff scheduled to be coming out next week, but we're still doing our live streams. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what we got planned?
I have no idea what we have planned. Why do you ask me these stupid questions, Matt? Because I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about. Fuck, man. But yeah, we got a live stream coming up on Tuesday. I don't know what the topics are. Maybe Guardians of the Galaxy or something. I really don't know. But we also got...
we have a doctor and novelist Huffman. I forget his first name.
If you want me to talk about these things, you need to tell me in advance, because I had no clue what we're talking about this
just
week.
On the schedule. So there we go.
Yeah.
So like, don't be expecting a new episode on Friday. Unfortunately, like our content creation schedule got thrown for a complete loop, but we want to thank everyone who donated to our GoFundMe to help us replace that equipment. It meant a lot. We are now the most secure podcast studio in Las Vegas because of your support. So we've got new locks, new alarms, new cameras, everything you can think of to guard this place. We've got it on lockdown. So thank you all so much for your support and your donations. It really meant a lot to us. Vader, do you have any final thoughts on what we talked about today?
No, not really. I just want to thank Razorfist for coming today, man. It's a huge deal. We got a really good crowd in our chat here for you, and I'm glad you made it. And sorry you had issues this morning, and it was a real pleasure meeting with you and getting to hear your views on some of this stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for hosting me, guys.
Yeah, and we want to thank everyone for sticking around for a whole extra hour. We're usually out of here by 1 o'clock Pacific time, but we couldn't just end the stream as soon as Razorfist showed up. So we thank you all for staying around with us for an extra hour. Really appreciate it. All right, everyone, thank you so much. And as always, stay salty.